Hi, I'm Jen.
I'm Sophia.
And I'm Darin.
And you're listening to Every Rom Com, the podcast where we have fun taking romantic comedies seriously.
This week on Every Rom Com, we're continuing our Sports Rom Com series with a look at what Sports Illustrated once called the greatest sports movie of all time.
We'll take a look at the world of minor league baseball as portrayed in a film written and directed by a former minor league player.
And we'll check out the careers of Kevin Costner and Susan Sarandon as we explore the 1988 baseball classic, Bull Durham. Hello, Sophia.
Hi, Jen. How are you?
Oh, I'm excited. I'm happy to be here today. Sophia, this is your first episode in our Sports Rom Com series, yes?
I think so, yeah.
But it's not going to be your last. We've got a lot of really cool sports rom-coms that we have planned in the future. And I think you're going to be at least on One Crazy Summer coming up.
Mm-hmm.
And then we definitely have to get Bend It Like Beckham at some point. What else are you looking forward to?
I thought there was a running one we were going to maybe look into.
Oh yes, Run Fat Boy Run, which was kind of on my B list, but you seized on that one right away. You're like, that one. So yeah, we'll get that one in too.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I don't consider myself a sports person, but I do love a sports film. I love a sports documentary, and when I get a chance to see some live sports, it's the best time ever. So I'm really excited.
Yeah. I'm excited to continue the series with you. And today we also have a first-time guest on Every Rom-Com. We're going to be welcoming Darin Lundberg. So I'm going to give a little introduction to him, and then we'll get talking with him today. Darin Lundberg has been podcasting for nearly a decade, but he's been a film obsessive for longer than he can remember. Movies have been his babysitter, confidant, and constant companion. And in 2016, he started the NostalgiaCast podcast with best friend Jonny Craddock, in which they revisit and review the films of their childhoods to see if they stand the test of time or if they're past their prime. In 2023, Darin also started the Back To Bluey podcast with co-host Robert Yaniz Jr., in which they discuss the Australian animated phenomenon, Bluey, from a father's perspective as an aspirational tool for their families during the day-to-day. And just we're really glad to have you here on the podcast today, Darin. Thanks so much for joining us.
It's an honor to be part of this. What episode is this that you ladies are running?
Oh my gosh, I think this puts us in the 80s when I get this one out. I'm about 5 behind on editing right now. So
I know that.
But it's been a long road though, because I had a whole year off where I was dealing with long COVID. I still have long COVID, but I'm kind of getting back on the train here. So
okay.
Yeah, but
I'm sorry to hear that.
10 years you've been podcasting?
Yeah, since 2016. So it's been a long time. We took a long break in there because, like you, Jen, I added a lot, and it got to the point where it wasn't fun anymore because I was cutting out every single pause, and it would take me days or not, if not a week to edit a single episode, and it took a toll on me, so we had to take a break.
Okay, I feel you.
Sure.
I feel you on that. But NostalgiaCast is a great concept, and I've listened to a number of your episodes. And I'm wondering, why did you decide that viewpoint for your podcast, looking at movies from your childhoods, looking at these nostalgic films?
Well, like everybody and their dog, everybody wants to start a podcast, right? And so about the time 2016, I was feeling just kind of, I don't know, creatively spent, and I didn't want to lose that. So I started listening to some podcasts and thought, oh, that's something I could do. And obviously you try to look for a hook, right? And I just remembered the thing that I kind of grokked on is that back in 2006, Cars and Superman Returns both came out. Cars is an interesting idea because there's that whole idea about radiator springs and how it loses touch because everybody's passing them by on the freeway and everybody's nostalgic about, and it has that whole sequence with I think James Taylor has that song. where he's singing about the times gone by, and it just makes you feel nostalgic for those. And it was a very sweet kind of way to reach back into the past. And then Superman Returns was an interesting experience because that movie's all about nostalgia, and after a certain while you run out of anything interesting to say, and so you're like, well, is that the whole point of the movie, right? So I remember that being a very interesting 1-2 punch. And then in 2016, when the Ghostbusters Answer the Call movie came out with all the Saturday Night Live stars, an interesting thing happened because you had this weird, like, I love Ghostbusters as a kid,
Mm-hmm.
but the fact that, Leslie Jones and Kate McKinnon and, Melissa McCarthy and Kristen Wiig, they got death threats when they made the movie
Yeah.
because they were just playing Ghostbusters. And, I'm not 100% on the movie, but it was harmless. You know what I mean? So I
Yeah,
just
right.
don't understand why people got so adamant about something like Ghostbusters. Like, so you had that three kind of tiered thing where you had Cars, which is very sweet nostalgia, you had Superman Returns, which is taking it and just you're spinning emptiness out of nostalgia, really. And then nostalgia could actually be dangerous. Like, you can't take these
Mm,
things that you're so attached to and weaponize them against other people. That just doesn't make sense. And so when John and I thought about doing a podcast, we just thought, okay, well, if we're going to do this nostalgic kind of viewpoint, let's just go through movies that initially were like movies that we grew up as kids and that we
mhm.
haven't watched. Like, so my first episode that I picked was The Jazz Singer with Neil Diamond, and
Interesting.
Johnny's was Clash of the Titans from
Oh, I love
1982.
Clash of the Titans. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
so
Okay.
that's the kind of movies that we looked at, like movies that we hadn't seen in a while. And I was really resistant. Like, my rule was I don't want to do Star Wars. Everybody said
Mhm.
everything they could possibly say about Star Wars. I don't want to do it again. And then it got to the point where we had guests that we couldn't, like, they want to do Princess Bride and Back to the Future, movies that are my
Ugh,
favorites. And
yeah.
talking about those, I realized I could be just as enthusiastic, if not more enthusiastic, about movies that I loved as opposed to movies that I don't really have any connection to and was trying to find a connection. So ever since then, we've done more and more kind of, we did a 90s season where we concentrated on movies that we cut our teeth on, Johnny and I. And even episode 100, we did end up doing Star Wars because it was just the kind of like a celebration. But
Yeah.
we did it from the point of view of like the special editions and how your nostalgia for the older versions could alter how you look at it. So we kind of spun it in a way that I thought was interesting. So
Very
Excellent.
cool. Very
So
cool.
so when you're talking about movies, like whether they stand the test of time or they're past their prime, like were there any that you were very surprised, either way, that they still held up, or that, oh my gosh, what was I thinking with this one?
well, oddly enough, I don't think negatively a lot of the time. Like, I have a hard time remembering the stuff that I'm mad at, but I do remember that movies like Popeye with Robin Williams or Transformers the movie that I grew up on, those are tough because at a certain point you're like, I don't know if this is a bad movie or not. I don't know if this is a good movie
Oh,
or not because I just
sure.
have such a good time with it and such warm memories of it that it's hard to separate those two. And yeah, Popeye and Transformers movie, they have issues, right? And so,
Yeah.
but
Mm.
it's still, at the end of the day, I was like, yeah, these are worth remembering because they still, and I wish I could have that at the ready where I could, oh, this one was really terrible. But I just can't. I think the worst movie we've ever covered on the podcast was the Jim Carrey How the Grinch Stole Christmas, just
Oh,
because it
yeah.
ruined my nostalgia for the cartoon. But that was
Mm.
one that I knew I wasn't gonna like going into
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
So that's just a little bit different. If I had the time, if I wanted to, I could go through and find like the other movies that I was disappointed in. But mostly we try to keep the conversations positive and try to spin it that way.
Oh, you're nicer
Nice.
than me. I think Sybil and I once had an episode where we like eviscerated the movie Imagine Me and You, but
Oh,
like,
okay.
I have got a nostalgic choice on my double features today though, so that'll be cool. Like that kind of fits what you're talking about, where it's like you can't tell if it's actually good, but it's so nostalgic for you that you just
Yeah.
can't help it. And
Mhm.
Sophia, maybe you can ask about the other podcast because it is over my head.
Back to Bluey. Oh, well, okay. I mean, so my child is maybe quote unquote too old to watch Bluey, but she loves it. And
Oh, yeah.
I worked with pre-K kids, so I totally had to keep up with the what's hot with the 4-year-olds, and Bluey is it. Everybody loves Bluey. I love Bluey, and I love that you're doing this podcast from a dad's perspective because one of my friends who has like 6 kids, he's like, I can't watch the Bluey Man. It makes me cry every time. It's so sweet.
Yeah.
My daughter's like, I just want us to be like Bluey. Let's play
Oh no.
Keepy Uppy. And we're like, sure, honey, we can do that. Yeah.
Well, we call it an aspirational show because, yeah, when you watch Chili and Bandit and all the games that they play with their kids, it's exhausting. You're like, there's no way I
Yeah.
could do that, right?
Yeah.
But I
Totally.
don't the thing that we hit on again, that's that word aspirational, is just like all you can do is you can hope to be this good. They're just giving you an example of like the best parent that a parent could be. And they do
Yeah.
it in a way, again, from the point of view of anthropomorphic cartoon dogs, where kids can watch it and
Right.
feel entertained, and adults can watch it and have themes and feel like, oh, this is actually speaking to me, because I recognize, even though they're dogs, I recognize all these things happening. And so, yeah, Rob and I, we turn every 7-minute episode into like a 40-minute conversation, because there's just so much to pull and so much
Yeah.
joy and so much to learn and so much to, again, aspire to or compare to. But I think that's the thing, like, yeah, it makes you cry, and I think that's good because it helps you get more in touch with your feelings, whatever, and get closer to your kids. But
Yeah.
the whole point of our podcast, though, is, yeah, don't be the person that looks at the show and goes, I hate this because it makes me feel bad. It's like, don't do that. It's like, all it's
Right.
doing is it's helping you realize, I can be a better parent. What can I do?
Yeah.
And so that's just been the crux of every one of our conversations. We love it.
Yeah, and let's not forget they're playing for 7 minutes. Like,
Yeah.
I think that's what I should aspire to. Be like, yep, you got 7 minutes of me, kid. Good job. Go to your room and go. Let me do
Exactly.
dishes or something. But my kid's a little older, so she doesn't, always want me around anyway. So,
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's coming with our kids.
All right, so we usually ask a guest who comes on the show for the first time, what are some of your favorite rom-coms?
My favorite rom-com of all time is Shop Around the Corner,
Okay,
the
interesting.
Lubitsch movie. And
Yeah.
I think, Jen, you and I got in some arguments with some people online recently about what constitutes a rom-com. I just think that Shop Around the Corner is like, as a movie, that the store that they all work in, I can smell it and I can hear the noises and I know the people in there. And so I've never experienced the movie that was that like engrossing and in depth, that and immersive. And so I just love that. But also that timeless story of, how they meet over mail and things like that, and they argue at first and they realize how to deal with each other. I just think that's wonderful. If you were to also look at like His Girl Friday, I think I'm weird.
I love that one.
I'm weird because I mostly look at older movies as like the examples. And
No, that's not weird. I love it. I love
yeah,
it.
His Girl Friday's up there. Philadelphia Story's up there. When Harry Met Sally is probably the most recent rom-com that I
Okay.
have in my top 5. But yeah, those are, there's an audience for them, and it's really sad these days that we're not finding like The Ticket to Paradise or whatever with George Clooney and Julia Roberts. Not a great movie, nothing you haven't seen before, but I just got a thrill out of watching two attractive stars flirt with each other on a big screen. You know what I mean? I think that rom-coms are a dying breed that in theaters, they go straight to streaming, but you miss a lot
Yeah.
of stuff when they go straight to streaming.
I don't think they'll ever completely die. Let's hope not. But yeah, there's definitely fewer of them going to the theaters these days. But I love that you brought in all these older movies. That's fantastic. The Lubitsch Design for Living is one of my favorites these days. So
Yeah.
yay Lubitsch.
Wonderful director, yeah.
And then I think we're probably going to end up talking a little bit about favorite sports movies during the course of the episode. So instead, I wanted to kind of present this interesting quote that I read from writer-director Ron Shelton, who did Bull Durham, that we'll be discussing today. He wrote in his book about the making of Bull Durham, quote, "The biggest mistake a sports movie can make is to have too much sports in it." And I want to know, do you agree or disagree with that statement?
I wonder what he's referring to.
Well,
you know what I mean?
like, I think what he's
You know?
saying is that if you think about, like, okay, think about Bull Durham that we're discussing today. There's not an actual lot of baseball play
Right.
in this movie. You're not like spending a lot of the
okay.
time watching like the innings go by.
Right.
Whereas some sports movies, you will see a lot more sports play, gameplay. One example that I think is counter to what he's saying is actually the movie Lagan, which a lot of people wouldn't think of that as a sports movie anyway, but it's this Bollywood epic about a cricket game that's played in order for these like Indian like peasants to like try to not have to pay a land tax, played against the British colonial government. But the thing with that movie is it's a really long movie and it seeds in so much conflict and so much character before the game starts that once the game starts, every play is just of utter importance. And the stakes they're playing for mean so much that you are engrossed in this cricket match. I don't even understand cricket, but I still like that game. Anyway, so I think that's an exception. But in general, I think I would agree with Ron Shelton quite a bit that like what you want to see in a sports movie isn't necessarily watching a sports game. You want to see the way sports you want character building moments. You want the sports to the extent that it builds character or plot, but you don't want it to become just watching a game. I agree with Ron Shelton. What do you think about that upon reflection?
Yes.
Well, sports is life, right? Life is sports. And I think there's a difference between watching a game, which can be fun, right? But also there's the dramas of who's playing and what they're up against and their personal like kind of conflicts that they're going through. That's what movies are, right? It's about the drama. And yeah, there's drama in sports, but you also want to see what their lives are like off the field. I kind of look at it the same thing as film criticism. Like we can look at everybody's opinions, but it doesn't matter whether we agree. I just want to know where you're coming from and how you arrived at that destination, right? That's all I care about, so we can kind of understand each other. It's the same thing with sports. It's like you want to see what they're like off the field, if there's a field that you're playing on, and then how they live their life to their game, if that makes any sense. So I understand what he's saying from that point of view.
Sure.
Yes, I can. That makes sense. And they even talk about how Bull Durham doesn't have that big like grand game that they're trying to win at the end,
Yeah.
and they did that on purpose. But I
Yeah.
enjoy what the montage of training. I get a kick out of those, so you need some, I think.
That's true. And I think the big game can be good as long as there's like been build up to it. I mean, you know what the stakes are, and maybe the stakes are more than just this sports game. So yeah, I'm of two minds about it, I guess. Oh well. We didn't make a definitive statement. Oh well. I guess we'll live.
Yep. Before we get started today, a few notes. First, as usual, the beginning of the episode will have a spoiler-free section. But listen out for our spoiler warning when it comes if you haven't watched the movie yet.
We'd also like to remind you that you can follow the podcast on social media. Our Facebook page is Every Rom Com Podcast and Blog. Our Instagram is at Every Rom Com. Our Twitter handle is at Every Rom Com Pod. And you can also find us on Blue Sky at Every Rom Com.
And as always, you can find the podcast at everyromcom.com. Send us feedback at everyromcom.com. And if you like what you hear, please rate, review, and subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts.
And you can also now listen to our episodes on our YouTube channel at Every Rom Com Podcast. Please visit us on YouTube today and hit the subscribe button.
And finally, if you'd like to help support the show financially, you can visit our Buy Me a Coffee page at buymeacoffee.com/everyromcom. All donations go towards producing the show.
And now let's get into the episode by listening to the trailer for Bull Durham.
What do you believe in then?
Well, I believe in the small of a woman's back, the hanging curveball, high fiber, good scotch, and I believe in long, slow, deep, soft, wet kisses that last for 3 days.
Oh, my.
Who are you? I'm the player to be named later.
I love winning, man. You hear what I'm saying? It's like better than losing.
These are the ground rules. I hook up with one guy a season. Usually takes me a couple weeks to pick the guy. Kind of my own spring training.
It's cold in here.
You think Dwight Gooden leaves his socks on?
God, the sucker teed off in that like he knew I was gonna throw a fastball.
He did know. I told him.
Honey, I want you to wear these when you're pitching on the road. They're garters.
Rose goes in the front, big guy.
Love is a lot like baseball. It's not whether you win or lose. It's how you play the game.
No problem, baby, no problem.
Kevin Costner.
Get a hit, Crush.
Shut up.
Susan Sarandon.
Have you ever been tied up in bed?
Tim Robbins.
I'm too old for this.
Bull Durham.
Oh my God, that trailer makes the movie seem so cheesy.
So 80s.
Yeah,
So
doesn't-
80s.
It makes it sound like some kind of like early 80s sex comedy or something, which in some ways it is, but like not. It's much more intellectual than this trailer implies.
That's funny.
Oh my God. Yeah, no, that I was having a hard time not laughing during the trailer, I have to tell you. All right. Well, Bull Durham was released June 15th, 1988. It was written and directed by Ron Shelton, and it stars Kevin Costner, Susan Sarandon, and Tim Robbins.
So the basic premise of the film starts with Annie Savoy. She is a baseball groupie or mentor, loyal to the local minor league team, the Durham Bulls. Every year, Annie chooses a player to sleep with, and every year that player has a great year. This year, she's choosing between Ebby Calvin Nuke LaLoosh, a young pitcher with a great but uncontrollable arm, and Lawrence Crash Davis, a veteran catcher who's nearing the home run record for the minor leagues and who's been assigned to mature Nuke as a player. Crash leaves Annie to date Nuke out of pride, but now both he and Annie are working to improve Nuke as a player, while also wondering whether they shouldn't have gotten together romantically after all.
So there are a lot of things to learn about this movie, but I will confess that the vast majority of the interesting facts section on the podcast today come from one source, which is a book about the making of the movie written by writer and director Ron Shelton. It's called The Church of Baseball, The Making of Bull Durham, and it was released in 2022. And has anyone else read this book?
Didn't realize he wrote it. No.
I don't even know it existed. That's fascinating.
Yeah, it's a fantastic read. I really recommend this book if you're a fan of this film, but also he has a lot of like screenwriting tips that he kind of puts into the book as well, because he's kind of talking you through his writing process for the movie and then the production process. So yeah, I took a lot of notes that aren't even relevant to this episode. I just took notes about writing as well. So
I'll say
resource.
that I got the DVD at the library, and his commentary is also very good for writing and directing and production.
Oh, you got one with commentary. Mine didn't have commentary, so that's good. Hopefully you can fill in things that I miss if I miss.
His is good, but you have Costner and Robbins doing a commentary too.
Yes.
And it gets really awkward during the love scene at the end.
It gets a little awkward, but I feel like they spend most of the time just giggling together anyway. And I'm yeah.
All right. Well, if you guys have tidbits from those commentaries, please put them in when they apply, because for some reason I got a DVD that didn't have commentary and I was very sad. So, yep. Oh well. So, let's see. So, writer and director Ron Shelton's script for Bull Durham was based off of his experiences playing minor league baseball from 1967 to 1971. So, you have a real ball player writing the movie, which I think you can see throughout the film.
Yeah, write what you know.
Yeah, he did it. Yeah. And Shelton also took advice from his wife, who recommended that he write a baseball story from a woman's point of view. So hence you have Annie's character narrating the film. Shelton scouted Durham, North Carolina as a setting before writing the script. And while he was writing, he hung out at minor league games to update his knowledge of the culture. But he said it was pretty much the same as when he was playing. And Kevin Costner's character, Lawrence Crash Davis, was named after a player Shelton found in a Carolina League record book who had hit 50 doubles in 1948. Near the beginning of filming, the actual player who he took the name from found Shelton and spoke to him about the movie. Fortunately, he was okay with his name being used. He did ask Ron Shelton, "Do I get the girl?" Which is kind of funny. The name Ebby Calvin LaLoosh, on the other hand, came from a waiter Shelton met in Columbia, South Carolina, whose last name was actually LaRouche, but there was like this, I think he was like a Communist Party candidate who always ran under LaRouche for a long time in the 80s. So he changed it to LaLoosh instead. And the waiter also had the nickname Nuke, so it was like, just one of those perfect finds.
Mm-hmm.
Like he would microwave everything? Is that why?
Who knows? And then Annie's name was based off of, I guess, a tradition of calling baseball groupies Annies. So, and then a matchbook. He got the last name off a matchbook. So he's just getting names here and there. Shelton sold his idea for the movie to producer Tom Mound and included a clause in the writing directing contract for the movie that said he couldn't be fired until after 1 week of shooting.
That's awesome.
According to his book, this may have come in handy at one point. So.
Oh, geez.
Shelton wanted Kevin Costner in the movie from the beginning, but Costner actually insisted on auditioning just to make sure his baseball skills were up to snuff, which you gotta respect. And the film still needed financing at this point, but around that time, Costner began becoming a very successful future movie star with the release of The Untouchables and No Way Out. So Costner came with Shelton to finance meetings, and his new star power probably is what got Shelton the deal with Orion Pictures. Like, this movie might not have gotten made without Kevin Costner, essentially. So Susan Sarandon was initially not considered for the role because she wasn't on a list of actors approved by the production companies in town. But Shelton and Costner were both sold on her early on, and Sarandon was so interested in the role that she flew from Italy, where she was living at the time, to LA and went to the studio and charmed the executives in person. So she really wanted that role.
I think that's pretty legend. Shelton talks about it. Costner talks about it all in the commentaries. And I watched a couple old interviews with her, and she talks about several times how she like humiliated herself, flying there on her own dime and then getting hold of this like skimpy, slinky dress or whatever and charming everybody. And it was like, wow, yes, she clearly wanted it. And
I think nobody knew her as a sex pot either, so the role kind of required some of that. So from what I hear, I'm sorry. Eastwick, right? Very, very sexy movie, right? That's very like
or funny.
Sex. Yeah. And so I think what happened was they sent her into, I think, Mike Medavoy or the studio or whatever, in like a slinky kind of dress and had her like bend over his desk or something. And the way that she describes it, she's like, I just knew what I had to do. And I'm like, well, that's gross. Like, times have sure changed.
I hope, yeah.
So Tim Robbins then was also an actor who the studio wasn't too sure about. In fact, there was an executive at the studio who was continuously advocating for Anthony Michael Hall to be cast in the role of Nuke. So, and this continued after filming had started, and I just cannot imagine Anthony Michael Hall in that role.
at all, like kind of yuck and gross.
Yeah.
It's just like, I mean, no offense, kid.
I know, no offense, but
he would have actually looked more like a young player starting out. I'll give him that, but
maybe.
But
he would have been better as one of the supporting players, I think.
Yeah. Well, anyway, fortunately, Tim Robbins was cast, and of course, he and Susan Sarandon met and fell in love on set. So they didn't just have great chemistry in the movie; they had great chemistry in life. There were 2 weeks of rehearsal in Durham before shooting began. And Durham Bulls manager Grady Little ran a baseball camp for the actors. He also recruited minor league players to fill out the cast. And one notable inclusion of a real minor league figure, Shelton included a minor league celebrity in his movie, Max Patkin, who is known as the Clown Prince of Baseball. And we see him like introduced as himself in the movie. Patkin spent 40 years in the minor leagues doing pregame clown routines.
Wow.
Yeesh.
Bull Durham had a budget of $9 million, and it grossed over $50 million, so not too shabby. And Ron Shelton wrote in his book that famous Hollywood writer-director Billy Wilder called him over when he was eating in a restaurant and told him, "Great picture, kid."
Wow.
That's huge.
Yeah, if you know your movie history, Billy Wilder giving you a blessing is pretty great.
I think even Stanley Donen was there at the same place, so he met them at the same time.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a good seal of approval.
And Shelton wrote that Bull Durham had effects beyond the world of movies. He said, quote, "The movie was credited with sparking a renaissance of the minor leagues, and for many years attendance rose, new ballparks were built, and towns and cities across the country embraced team nicknames indigenous to the region." Shelton added, however, in his 2022 book that as of the publication of the book, the Major Major League Baseball had been cutting back their investment in the minor leagues and eliminating franchises. So lately, not quite as much. But Bull Durham itself remains one of the most highly acclaimed sports movies of all time. In 2003, Sports Illustrated listed it as the best sports movie of all time, and the American Film Institute listed it as the 5th greatest American sports movie of all time.
Wow.
So, so we're going to talk about our general opinion now. Do you agree with Sports Illustrated and the American Film Institute? Do you regard this as one of the best of all time? What's your experience with this movie, and how has it changed over time?
This was my first viewing of this film.
No way!
Way. That was the part why I wanted to do it. I'm like, I've never seen it. I mean, I feel like I've seen that cover with, Costner and Sarandon on the car, whatever. And but I'd never seen it. So upon my first viewing, I was like, it's good. But I'm like, okay, what's the big deal? Well, you find out later the big deal is it was the first of its kind,
Exactly.
that Shelton was really giving you life from the player's point of view. And, he really wanted you to see the dugout and the locker room and what do they talk about on the mound up there? What's going on? And so, and especially from this minor league life and what the life was like. So I'm like, well, that's awesome. And that it, just all the lore behind it, that how he had to fight for Tim Robbins and Sarandon and all that. So that made it all the better, knowing all of that.
For me, this is a movie that I remember. I didn't see it in the theater because I would have been way too young. I probably would have been like 11 when it came out. I do remember the trailer. They used to have the E channel or whatever that used to have a half-hour program where they coming attractions where they played trailers, and I just fell in love with it. So I remember taping a lot of the trailers, and Bull Durham was one of them. Kevin Costner's the star of my favorite movie, which we'll probably talk about a little bit later when we're talking about our double features, but the way that I think that's what attracted me to this is just having him in another baseball movie. And so as soon as I was able to, I think during the 90s, I rented it. And it's one of those movies where, well, as a young kid, you're not quite prepared for the level of sex that's in it. And then watching it again, I wasn't ready for the level of sex that was in it because every movie has become so chaste and kind of turned away from that, unless you're kind of like Hitman or something like that, or like The Substance, which is kind of a gross out movie, but not the same. You know what I mean? It's not like the joy of sexuality, anything like it was just it. So it's just funny, like bookending my first viewing with my most recent viewing, and the sex kind of catch me off guard. But I think what that does is it adds to the world that we're living in at the time. I literally, when I'm with the players and you're in the dugout, or you're in the back, and you're getting the pep talks, I can feel the heat. I can feel this. I can smell the sweat. I can smell like there's fungus on Nuke's, like his flip flops, right? So I think again, it's very immersive, and it kind of pulls you in there. And I think too the way that, because I'm not a big sports person. I'm very uncoordinated, but baseball was the sport that I could play, or more accurately, it was a sport that I could play and not care what I looked like. I just loved playing it to the point where I thought it was pretty good. I could hit, I could catch, I could run, like I could man first base. And so the thoughts that go through your head, the way that crashes at bat one time, all the stuff that's going through his head, and he's got to get himself out of the box and give himself a timeout. That's very authentic. The way that, things get into your head and you lose sight, you forget that you're playing a game, all that, just the way that they talk about baseball, the way that Annie talks about it as kind of a religion, the way that you have all of these traditions and these little rituals that you stick to, which is very akin, like you said, Sophia, like this is the first real movie to really capture that, but it's repeated. Like League of Their Own does a lot of that stuff, and a lot of the movies that came after it kind of repeat this. I don't want to say that they owe everything to Bull Durham, but it's just a very authentic, and there's nothing like, and we'll get to it obviously, but that part where they're all at the mound and they're just all dealing with their own shit, in that conversation.
Yeah.
That's just what you go through as you're playing. It's just but like we also talked about, it's not all on the field. You bring a lot of that to your regular world, and you bring a lot of your regular world to the game. And so it's very rich in the way it just captures that feel of what it's like to play baseball or be on a team. And so that's what's always stuck with me. And it's always the thing that I love the most about the movie whenever I go back and revisit it.
And would you say you've revisited it a lot of times over the years, or had it been quite a long time?
It's one of those. I think maybe it does. I've seen it maybe a dozen times, so I'm catching
Okay.
it maybe every 2 or 3 years, and every time again, it's like a nostalgia hit. You're like, oh, this is like slipping into a warm bath. Like I love these characters. I
Mm.
love the way that they talk. I love the music. So yeah, it's a movie it's not my favorite by any means, but it's one of those movies that I can just always slip back into and remember why I liked it so much in the first place.
Well, I grew up in a baseball household. My dad played college baseball. My dad loved baseball. My dad was always trying to get us to play baseball. And
Cool.
usually our family movie that we went to, like we'd go to like at least one movie in a theater each year as a family, was a baseball related movie. We may have even seen this in the theater together because my parents were not at all strict about like, R-rated movies or anything. Like I was watching movies with like R ratings when I was 5 and it's like wasn't a thing. We
Yeah.
may have, we may not. We definitely had it on VHS as soon as it was available, and I definitely saw it when I was like 11 or 12 or something like that. Um, and it wasn't like my favorite. Like I'll say that at the time it wasn't my favorite, and even when I got into my Kevin Costner phase, which I'll talk about in a minute,
Oh yeah.
it wasn't one of my favorite Kevin Costner movies. Um, but now when I've looked at it for the podcast and I've watched it a couple times and I've kind of looked through like the important scenes. So I clip different things from YouTube to put in the episode. I found myself wanting to clip like half the scenes in the damn movie. And I was like, oh shit, this writing is just good. Like this acting is just good. These scenes are just funny. And like, and so when I was looking at it piece by piece and really seeing what was in the movie, I'm like, oh, this is much better movie than I kind of like realized. And I think maybe the reason it doesn't connect with me as like one of my favorite movies is that the way that people are behaving in the movie seems at times like not the baseball part. The baseball part feels realistic, but the relationship part at times feels a little silly. Like, why is this woman still doing this thing where she sleeps with a different player every year and then
Right.
she has to be faithful to that player? It feels a lot like a device. You know what I mean?
Right.
And also, like, unlike a lot of rom-coms where you feel this kind of longing and ache and you wonder, are they going to get together? There's like never a point in the movie where I'm really worried that Crash and Annie aren't going to eventually get together. I don't
Yeah.
know. It doesn't have that yearning. And rom-coms, one of the things I really like is the yearning. So, and also finally, as much as it's got a quote unquote woman's point of view, it kind of also doesn't. Like, I
Right.
don't think it even passes the Bechdel test once. It definitely doesn't pass it twice, which is my new kind of low bar. So,
Okay.
but but I have to appreciate the craft. And I do think as a baseball movie, it does something very interesting that I like. So my opinion has improved, but it isn't one of the ones that's closest to my heart either at the same time.
Do you ladies think that Annie has agency in this? Do they? Maybe because maybe I'm just speaking as a man, you know what I mean? But I don't feel like the movie ever talks down to her or makes her feel. Even the Millie character, like when Skip goes in and finds Nuke, he's not Nuke yet, but finds them in the locker room, right? He's like kind of insulted, and then he finds out that it's Millie. He's like, oh well, I didn't know it was you. Just get out. You can do whatever you want. Just get out of my locker room, right? Get out of my clubhouse. So I was just wondering, and again, that's Annie's entire arc. She just she picks one player, but that's her choice. Nobody's making her do that.
Yeah.
But am I misspeaking? I mean, what do you two think of that?
I mean, I don't feel it's at all misogynistic. I think she's a strong character and an interesting character. But it doesn't feel necessarily realistic to me. I mean, and maybe it would be different. Apparently, there was a scene that was cut out that explained more about her backstory. Maybe that would have helped me understand, fill that in a little more. But
Right.
yeah, she reads more to me as like maybe someone in her 30s or late 20s. You know what I mean?
Interesting. Yeah. And as
I
far
don't
as
know,
the
it's
romance
yeah.
goes, I agree with you. It's nothing that I just feel like you never feel like they're not going to get together because they're the most mature and kind of world weary characters. And so you know that they're going to maybe end up together, or they're kind of, even though they're not the same age. What were they separated by like 12 years or something like that? But
Yeah, I think the characters might be supposed to be the same
Right.
age, but the actors weren't. Yeah, they're the only two people that read in that town, apparently. So
Right.
Exactly.
I know.
Exactly.
I was thinking about that too. I'm like, ooh, are we going to call this a feminist film? Is this feminist? And to some degree, yeah. Like I think she does have agency. I think she is making her and the Millie character as well.
Right. But they
doing
don't
their
look down
thing.
on her.
Yeah, nobody's. Yeah.
Well, in that way, as far as 80s comedies go, I think it's kind of, and yeah, it was toward the end of the decade, but it was really
Mhm.
kind of bracing like you put on an 80s comedy and you start to cringe, like, how are they going to treat the women characters? What's going to happen in
Sure.
this? But this one I don't, yeah, it's a little bit dated and maybe it's more of a character thing, but I never felt like icky watching it, where a lot of
Yeah.
80s movies I feel
Mhm.
really gross. And again, I don't know if this is because it started becoming more progressive toward the end of the decade, but there are definitely a lot of really gross, misogynistic, ugly, you know,
Mhm.
movies made during that time, and I'm just glad that's never been one of those for me. This has never been one of those for me.
Yeah.
Mhm.
We cover a lot of the other good ones on our podcast too. So
Good.
I'll just put that in. A lot of the other ones that don't make you feel icky. But yeah. Yeah, I certainly don't necessarily think it's feminist, but it's definitely not anti-feminist either. So
Right.
yeah. And Susan Sarandon just lends a ton of presence to whatever character she plays. So
Mhm.
I
Yes.
think that really helps.
Yes, she does.
All right, so why don't we get into the cast and crew now? And first, I'm going to talk about Kevin Costner. And Sophia already knows this, but Kevin Costner was like my movie star boyfriend when I was like 13 and 14 years old, and
I
maybe
don't blame
15
you.
years old. I was obsessed with Kevin Costner, starting with Dances with Wolves. It carried over into Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves.
Yes.
And so there's this like weird, I was so obsessed with Kevin Costner when I was a young teenager that when I watch him in movies to this day, it sort of weirdly feels like I'm watching an ex-boyfriend that I have sort of fond feelings for. I'm not
He's
even I'm not even kidding. It's really weird.
he's so good looking. I mean, they talk about like the Nuke character being this hot young kid or whatever, but every time they put the camera on Kevin Costner, I'm like, look at that fine man. Like, damn, he's so attractive. What a star. Yeah, so it
I can
makes
see what you
sense.
see in him, but I think
Mhm.
this movie, like watching it again last night, I'm like, yeah, this really, I think over any movie, this really nails his sex appeal and what makes him. He has a
Mm.
smile and a wink that he gives, the line we heard in the trailer, and it's like,
Mhm.
oh, even I'm watching, going, yeah, I'm melting a little bit, you know what I mean? Because
Mhm.
he's so charming and charismatic when he's in the right part, and I think this is one of his. I
Mm.
agree with you. It's not one of my. Actually, you know what? I'm going to say it is. It is one of my favorites because I think he's just so laid back and he's such a character, and there's never a moment where I think, oh, you're acting. I just think he's got great appeal in this.
The funny thing is, I was like more of a period piece Kevin Costner fangirl. So like I was like, I want him in
Interesting.
period clothes. So I don't know. This one never did it for me, but you guys are right. He is objectively attractive in this movie. Yeah.
I mean, Dances with Wolves was great, but one that I watched repeatedly was Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
a lot. Mm-hmm.
Everything I do it for you, baby. Anyway. All right. Well, we'll go through we'll go through how he got to be the man he was. So he was born January 18th, 1955 in Linwood, California. He went to California State University in Fullerton, and originally he was studying marketing, but then he became interested in acting during college. His first IMDb credit is for a movie called Malibu Hot Summer, which also has the alternate title Sizzle Beach, USA. I have to admit, I have not yet watched that fine film, but perhaps. He did a few parts in similar films or smaller parts in bigger films, as well as a sort of famous series of cut scenes in The
Yep.
Big Chill, before he received his first two more well known parts in Fandango and Silverado in 1985.
He's so fun in Silverado. He's so fun in that one.
Oh,
I've
yeah?
seen it.
I have yet to see that one, actually.
Oh, you would. It's Silverado is a movie that I call like your intro to westerns. If you're going to watch a western, watch that one. And it basically nails everything. That it feels modern, but it's also very traditional and classical. Yeah, and once Kevin Costner shows up, it's like the screen lights up. But the screen is already lit. I don't know if it's going to make more sense when you're watching it. You've got Kevin
Okay.
Kline and Scott Glenn, and then Kevin Costner shows up. You're like, yeah, this is great. So yeah,
Nice.
definitely recommend.
Nice. In 1987 ended up being Costner's real breakout year, though, when he appeared in The Untouchables and No Way Out. And of course, this is the same period, as we mentioned, when he was about to make Bull Durham. And then after Bull Durham in 1988, Costner starred in one of the other most beloved baseball films of all time, Field of Dreams, in 1989. 1990, however, might have been the most important year of his career as he co-produced, directed, and starred in Dances with Wolves, which was nominated for 12 Academy Awards and won 7, including Best Picture and Best Director for Costner. he was also nominated for Best Actor. And I think there were probably a lot of people who were not happy at that year's Oscars, but I was like sitting in my living room applauding every time Dances with Wolves won something like a huge dork. Okay. Let's see. Costner worked steadily throughout the 90s, starring in movies including Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, JFK, The Bodyguard, Wyatt Earp, Waterworld, and Message in a Bottle. He also made another sports movie, Tin Cup, with Ron Shelton in 1996, and another baseball movie, For Love of the Game, in 1999. And in 1997, he returned to directing and also starred in the post-apocalyptic story, The Postman, which I kind of think of as like a double feature with Waterworld, but maybe the slightly better one.
That makes sense. Yep, I know what you're talking about.
His work in the 2000s was overall not quite as successful as his 90s work, but he did appear in movies including 13 Days, 3,000 Miles to Graceland, The Upside of Anger, Rumor Has It, and Mr. Brooks. He also directed and starred in the Western Open Range in 2003. And then in the 2010s, his career picked up again. Some of his significant movies in the 2010s included The Company Men, Man of Steel, Jack Ryan Shadow Recruit, Draft Day, McFarland USA, Hidden Figures, and Molly's Game. And he also began making a big impression with TV series in the 2010s. He did Hatfields and McCoys, a miniseries in 2012, for which he won an Emmy. And then, of course, everybody's parents watch this, or grandparents, depending on how old you are, Yellowstone, which started in 2018, which he also produces. In the 2020s, he has continued to work on Yellowstone. He also produced, directed, co-wrote, and starred in the movies Horizon and American Saga, Chapter 1 and Chapter 2. And I have to admit, I tried watching Horizon Chapter 1 and I could not get into it. I'm sorry, ex-boyfriend Kevin Costner.
It plays more like a mini-series, like a TV series, than it does a movie.
Yeah, maybe I was going about it wrong. I don't know.
Right.
So he is also in production now on Chapter 3 of Horizon and American Saga. So he's still going on that. And then I did not know this before researching this episode. In addition to his film and television work, he also has a country rock band called Kevin Costner and Modern West, which has released several albums. And he sings and he plays guitar. And I mean, I'm not really into necessarily the particular kind of music he's playing, but he didn't sound bad. I saw a clip from that. And he has been married and divorced twice and has 5 children. So if anyone wants to say anything else about Kevin Costner, you may say it now.
Well, we might say it during the episode itself. I think Costner is not, I don't think he's a great actor. There are definitely times in certain movies, like Robin Hood, like he's great as a presence, but yeah, he can't do an English accent, obviously, and all of that. But I think there's nothing wrong with that. Like, I don't know if you could say Cary Grant could act, but he was a definite Humphrey Bogart. I don't know if he could act, but they definitely had a presence.
Sometimes Humphrey Bogart could act. Yeah,
John Wayne definitely probably couldn't act. It's that kind of thing where you don't really go to see them as actors. You go to see them as a presence. And so Costner's like that, but when he's in a movie like this, I think he's perfect for romantic comedy because there's not a lot of weight to anything he's saying. You know what I mean? He's not trying to carry the weight of the world on his shoulders or trying to prove himself. He's just trying to be a charming guy, and I think that's where he excels.
Yeah, I think probably I'm not able to be objective about things like Dances with Wolves, so I'm not going to even try to go into that. I do think he did a good job in JFK. I think that might be one of the moments I've seen him where I would call him an actor. But yeah, I think he is in some ways more of a presence or a performer. I would agree.
Right.
All right. Are we ready for Susan Sarandon?
Let's do it. Ms. Susan Sarandon. I really feel like that's how she needs to be introduced. She's talk about a presence.
It's interesting how Costner kept calling her Sue during the
Sue.
commentary.
I know, it's really cute. He kept calling her Sue, and then he kept calling Tim Robbins Timmy.
Timbo.
Timbo or Timmy. It was so, Ron Sheldon kept calling him Ronnie. I'm like,
oh my God. Clearly I need to get the DVD with the commentary somehow so I can hear all this.
And there was a making of and all kinds of great features.
The Criterion disc it's really good. So yeah.
Yes, that's what it was. The Criterion disc.
Okay.
Look yourself up. Okay, so Susan Sarandon was born in Jackson Heights, Queens, New York City on October 4th, 1946, and she grew up in New Jersey. She attended Catholic University of America in Washington, D.C., where she received a BA in drama. Her first IMDb credit is in 1970 for a film called Joe. The early 70s, she mostly appears in TV, particularly in the soap opera A World Apart. Her career really took off in 1975 when she appeared in the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Oh, now I
Nice.
want to see. Now I want to see a version of Rocky Horror Picture Show where Kevin Costner plays Brad. Sorry.
Yeah, that'd be fun. The mid to late 70s consisted of all films, most notably her first collaboration with Louis Malle in 1978 in Pretty Baby. Sarandon would work with Malle again in her first Academy Award nomination for Best Actress in 1980's Atlantic City. Other popular works in the 80s before Bull Durham included Tempest, The Hunger, and The Witches of Eastwick. The 90s brought us some of her most remarkable works. She received Oscar nominations for Best Actress for Thelma and Louise, Lorenzo's Oil, The Client, before finally winning Best Actress in 1996 for Dead Man Walking.
And I think the only reason she probably didn't get the award for Thelma and Louise is because I believe that was the year Jodie Foster got Silence of the Lambs. Wow. Yeah. That's competition right there.
Right.
I remember watching the Oscars and her winning for Dead Man Walking. I was a senior in high school.
I graduated that year.
Yeah. A few favorites from the 90s are Little Women in 1994. That's mine. Stepmom in 1998. The Cradle Will Rock in 1999, written and directed by her then partner Tim Robbins. And Anywhere But Here in 1999. In the 2000s, Sarandon did voice work on Rugrats and The Simpsons and made appearances in popular TV shows like Friends, ER, Malcolm in the Middle, and Rescue Me. She also appeared in films including Shall We Dance, Elizabethtown, Enchanted, and The Lovely Bones. Sarandon did not slow down in the 2010s, appearing in films including Arbitrage, Cloud Atlas, Tammy, Three Generations, The Meddler, A Bad Mom's Christmas, and Blackbird. She also continued to work in TV, including appearances in 30 Rock, The Big C, Ray Donovan, and more. She also received Emmy and Golden Globe nominations for her portrayal as Betty Davis in Feud. In the 2020s, Sarandon continues to appear in movies and TV, including the movies Maybe I Do and Blue Beetle and the TV show Monarchs. Most recently, she portrayed Eleanor Roosevelt in The 6888, and in 2025, she played Gia in the movie Nonas. Sarandon has one movie in post-production, a drama called The Accompanist, and she is in pre-production on a drama called Exit Right. In addition to acting, Sarandon has 17 production credits. Sarandon is also famous for her activism and left-wing politics and has participated in protests and activism for movements including anti-war, pro-choice, pro-labor, pro-LGBTQ and anti-death penalty, and pro-Palestinian, among other causes. Occasionally, her activism has caused controversy, such as recently in 2023, when her agency, United Talent Agency, dropped her over remarks she made at a pro-Palestinian rally in New York.
She is not afraid. She is never afraid to speak her mind.
Yeah.
And I really respect that about her. She's like one of those actors who she's probably done about as much activism as she has done acting.
Yeah. I would say that that's true. Yeah. She was married to Chris Sarandon from 1967 to 1979. She has a daughter, Ava Amori, who was born in 1985 from her relationship with Italian filmmaker Franco Amori. She was together with Bull Durham castmate Tim Robbins from 1988 to 2009. Together they have two sons, Jack Henry, born 1989, and Miles, born in 1992.
Yep. Susan Sarandon, she she has a really impressive career, and one of these days I want to do a retrospective of her movies, I think, and just watch them all.
She has so many credits. I think like 175 on IMDb. And when I was
I'm not
trying
gonna
to
watch all. I'm not gonna watch all her TV credits. I'll tell you that much.
but like voice work and like animation and it's just tons of stuff.
All right. So other important cast and crew in the movie are Tim Robbins, who plays Ebby Calvin Nuke Lelouch, Trey Wilson, who plays the team manager, and sadly he died shortly after the film's release. Robert Wool, who plays Larry, the assistant coach, and costume designer. I'm shouting out the costume designer because I like the costumes in this movie. Costume designer Louise Frogley. All right.
Annie wears some great dresses.
She's got some great stuff. Yep.
Oh yeah, I'm obsessed. Some of the best costume designing I've seen for just like a casual movie where it's not like a super period piece or something, you know? Okay, so let's get into. We've been talking a long time, but let's finally get into the movie. So this movie opens on black and white baseball pictures while we hear sort of church style organ music, and Annie gives her Church of Baseball monologue. And I think I'm going to deliver a little bit of it because there's really no substitute for hearing it. Apologies in advance to anybody who's from the South because I do not have a good Southern accent, but we'll try. I believe in the Church of Baseball. I've tried all the major religions and most of the minor ones. I've worshipped Buddha, Allah, Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, trees, mushrooms, and Isadora Duncan. I know things. For instance, there are 108 beads in a Catholic rosary, and there are 108 stitches in a baseball. When I heard that, I gave Jesus a chance. But it just didn't work out between us. The Lord laid too much guilt on me. I prefer metaphysics to theology. You see, there's no guilt in baseball, and it's never boring, which makes it like sex. There's never been a ball player slept with me who didn't have the best year of his career. Making love is like hitting a baseball. You got to relax and concentrate. This is just like, I feel like this is why I wanted to clip everything, because Shelton writes phenomenal dialogue, I think.
Yes. Naturalistic. It sounds, they call it poetry a little bit in the making of stuff, but like, I don't know if I'd go that far, but it just sounds very naturalistic. So it sounds very, just very natural and very easy on the ears.
And he like defines this character so quickly. Like, you know that she's like very eclectic and very intelligent, and that she is not ashamed about having sex. And you already kind of get her program, like what she does.
I think a lot of the dialogue reveals who these people are. That's an art that's lost in dialogue. A lot of dialogue these days is more like quips and things like that. But the way that she talks, it tells you everything you need to know about her before you even see her face. You know what I mean? And so that's a very important, I think that's a gift that you get with really great dialogue.
Yeah, it's a great opening. And this is why this film has risen in my estimation, just like looking at how it's put together. Yeah. So one thing, Shelton admitted this in his book, there are not actually 108 beads in a Catholic rosary. but this speech kind of works anyway. He has a couple of these things throughout the movie where he points out in the book that, he didn't actually get that right. I mean, we didn't all have Google on tap in 1988 either, so.
Yeah.
Right.
And let's see. The pictures in the credit sequence end up being part of Annie's baseball altar, which we then see. And we also see Annie getting ready on her way to the baseball park. And the organ music in the opening kind of seamlessly transitions into organ music at the ballpark. So, yeah.
There you have it.
So Shelton wrote in his book about the film that the Church of Baseball, the idea for that, was inspired by his evangelical upbringing. His parents got a TV when he was 12, which was used mainly or only for baseball. And when a local boy from their city left to play for the Milwaukee Braves and made it to the World Series, Shelton said his father would take them home from church early to watch the games. And then he said, quote, "We started going to church less and less. The seed for the Church of Baseball was planted."
Nice.
So we learn a little bit about Annie right away. And I just kind of want to leave it open here to talk just a little bit about Annie, the character in the movie, without giving too many spoilers. But what is your impression of Annie overall?
She knows who she is. I think that's the big part of her character. She's very confident in who she is and the Church of Baseball and the things that she teaches, and people respect her. Like, I'm not sure, like, what is her job at the baseball field? Is it just to track or and give them advice? What is her job exactly?
I don't think she has an official job at the baseball field. I think she
Yeah.
just has her professor job she briefly mentions later. Like,
Right.
I think, yeah, it's just her. She takes it upon herself to watch the game, watch the boys, give them tips on their form, and pick one to just, she says she picks one, and then they have the best season of the year. She loves the game and loves her team and is going to help out any way she can.
I also think there's nothing quite as sexy as confidence. Like if you're confident, like people will follow you everywhere. They'll kind of worship at your feet, right? But the thing that's great about her character and what's great about any human character is when they're vulnerable. And so yeah, you see her strong and you see her take charge, but I think Crash throws her for a loop, right? Even his first monologue throws her off and she's like, "Oh my," like she doesn't know. He gives her a complication for the first time, I think, and that's a big reason why he's attracted. I just really think that makes her even a better character because it makes her three-dimensional. She's confident, yeah, but she's also capable of vulnerability and melting in somebody's arms, and you want that in any partner you have. I think I just think it's a very and like we talked about, you never look down. She's never a figure of fun. And again, Susan Sarandon plays her. She has like a natural sexuality, I think. So that confidence kind of exudes from her. But it's I don't know. It's one of those things where the actress fits the role, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, for sure.
She's also like, I like something about her character and I noticed is she's very independent and intellectual and strong, but her clothing and her environment are very feminine. Like you see like the guys hanging out on her like very feminine, almost grandma couch and like with her little frilled pillows, and she's playing the Edith Piaf with the scarves over the lamps and everything. And then her outfits in this movie are so beautiful. Like her first outfit, she's wearing this like very fitted black 3/4 sleeve shirt with this wide red belt and this white and black checkered 50s skirt, very vintage. She just looks so put together and so feminine, but very strong at the same time. I love her whole look throughout the movie.
IMDb said that apparently that costume was inspired from the Vera Ellen character in that scene in White Christmas.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I'm always a little bit dubious about IMDb just because they don't vet their trivia. But yeah, I could see it. I can
see it too. Yeah, I want to go with that one. I want to believe that.
Well, her 50 skirt also, Bill Haley in his comments, like Rock Around the Comet. Rock Around the Clock is one of my favorite songs that I recognize. So it's nice that there's that connection. There's an old-timey kind of nostalgic connection to that.
Yeah, that song's playing as she enters the ballpark. Yeah, so we get to the ballpark. Annie goes to the ballpark, and right away we hear that Rock Around the Clock, like you said. And then we also see Max Patkin, the real minor league clown, and he's doing his little act on the ball field. And okay, I have different numbers here for some reason. I must have gotten it from two different sources. A different source said that he performed for 51 years and retired in 1995. And earlier in life, Patkin had been a minor league player but had injured his arm. So yeah, but it's great that Shelton knew enough to have this real life person portray this character.
Yeah, interesting.
And now we are introduced to Nuke in the locker room, and we see his character introduction is having his pants down, having sex with later we'll learn it's Millie. And on the day of what is supposed to be his professional minor league debut. What do you all think about the introduction of Ebby Kelvin Nuke Lelouch?
Well, bare ass is not something that it's not something I expected to see, and that's your introduction to him. It's a full on kind of, and the way that he deals with Millie, when Skip walks back out, they're like, "Oh, we still have time, right? We still have like maybe a couple of minutes." They're just talking through. It's nothing like overt. It's just fun for them, right? And I think that's really what kind of takes you aback is, oh, this is just a part of their world. And like I said, like these days, if you're attuned to the MCU movies, which are strictly made for 12-year-olds. 12-years think sex is ugly, is yucky, right? They don't want to have to deal with that. And it makes people uncomfortable. And so I like that it's in your face. And again, it's not so much, it's not really in your face. There's not like a scene where somebody parades around full on naked. It's just these really kind of quick kind of scenes to give you an idea of what's going on. But I don't know if that makes sense. It lasts long enough that they make an impact, I think.
Yeah.
See, I think I've been watching more of the movies that still have sex in them because it didn't take me
good.
aback at all.
Good.
I mean, I'm over here watching the Luca Guadagnino movies, but
Well, yeah.
but yes, I agree with you that like casual nudity and casual
yeah.
sex in mainstream, especially mainstream type sports movies wouldn't be so, prominent these days for the most part. Yeah.
Right.
Well, it gives you, I mean, it tells you exactly who he is. It's his debut, night out to pitch, and he's like, he's not taking it seriously, like, or he's like, I've got time for this in the locker room versus like, I don't know, out there like warming up somehow, like he's not, doesn't seem to be nervous and in anticipation of this big night. He's like, whatevs, I've been recruited, I'm here, so I'll just go do my thing when it's time, call my name, so
yeah.
Without dialogue, it tells you exactly who he is.
Exactly.
So you have dialogue telling you who Annie is, and then no dialogue at all telling you who Ebby is. And so it's just, and it's even funnier when he goes out and you find this is his debut, and you find out that he's really no good. He's got the passion.
He is and he isn't. He is and he isn't,
Right.
because he has a 95-mile-per-hour fastball, which apparently they've changed the way that they radar the fastballs. So 95 probably is actually much higher than that in today's measurements. Because I looked up this, it's too convoluted for me to go into. But if you're really curious, there are whole articles about how radar has changed, and so 95-mile-per-hour fastballs from the 80s are faster today. Anyway,
Wow.
so
he's honing his power, right?
So he's supposed to have like this super arm though. So he's one of those guys who's like unreliable. He walked 18 and he struck out 18 in this first game.
Right.
I was very concerned about this, like this whole, like, how can he not take his game seriously? How can he play for shit and not be like kicked off the team? Or how can he get away with that? So like I called a family member who'd played in the minor leagues. I'm like, explain it to me. How is this happening? Tell me how it works. And he did. It makes sense that he probably is very good. Right. And they've invested so much money in him that they wouldn't cut him. You know what I mean? They're going to nurture this player that they have seen and do believe has a great arm, versus like someone that they've brought on later. They're like, well, see ya. We don't have as much financial investment in you. I'm like, oh, okay, I get it. Money.
Yeah. They see the potential in him. Like if he does get honed into something great, like he will be a star potentially. Yeah. Right. And so to hone him, we now meet the person who is brought in to hone him, to mentor him. We see Crash enter the office, and he gives like that classic, like stereotypical line. One of the only cliche lines in this movie. He comes in and says, "I'm too old for this shit."
Yeah.
The year after Lethal Weapon, right?
That's funny.
Yeah, Crash, played by Kevin Costner, comes in, and they tell him right away that his job here is not really to be a player as much as it is to mentor and mature Nuke and to get him, in shape. And he's pretty disappointed about this. He wants to quit initially, but then he walks right back in. And what I thought was interesting is Ron Shelton said that he thought of Crash's character as being like a hired gun in a Western, and kind of treated the character like that as he wrote him.
Ah.
Yeah.
Well, it's cool too, because the other thing that we'll talk about is this really captures the relationship between the players and the relationship between the players and their managers. I like when Crash comes in and he's monologuing about how he's too old for this, but you've got Skip and you've got Larry who are just being quiet, just letting him go on. And when Crash goes, "I quit," and he walks up, they don't do anything. They just sit there quietly, still playing. They look at each other. They give Crash time to think it over. He comes back in. What time's batting practice, wherever tomorrow. I like that there's already a dynamic set up in that locker room.
Yeah,
for sure. The thing about it, and I'm too old, like their ages in real life. Tim Robbins was 3 years older than Kevin Costner in the making of this film.
Wait.
Or is that true?
No,
Costner's only 3 years older.
Reverse that, yeah.
Yeah. But they're only 3 years apart, which is kind of funny.
And Sarandon is older than both of them.
Yes.
Yeah. And the studio, some of the people at the studio were concerned about that. They were like, how is anybody going to believe that anyone would sleep with Susan Sarandon? Like, okay.
I believe it.
Everybody Everybody.
Right.
People still want to sleep with Susan Sarandon, please.
That's right.
So yeah, after this game, where Millie and Annie have been watching Nuke and doing his radar and so forth, we go to the bar and Annie's hanging out with Max, sitting with the clown, and Crash buys them drinks from a different booth. And Max tells Annie that I actually saw him read a book without pictures once, and that kind of sells her. But then he comes over and Annie asks him to dance. Crash says he doesn't dance, to which she says, "How embarrassing." But then she sees Nuke dancing, and he's dancing like a wild man over there with everybody. He comes over, tries to get Annie to dance, and now all of a sudden Crash wants to dance with her. So this is the first immature thing I think we see Crash do in this movie.
Right.
I don't know. I felt like yeah, Crash is supposed to be the mature one, but he's being all possessive here. He's doing the whole, she's spoken for a bit.
Well, I think it might have something to do with the fact that he's brought in to kind of hone or make control Nuke, right? To control Ebby. And then Ebby's the one that comes over and takes charge and says, hold on, no, we can't start a relationship off like that. Like, I've got to be the guy. I don't know. I saw it from that point of view.
That's an interesting dimension to it. I didn't think of that. Yeah. Well, Nuke is not having it. He basically gets Crash out back to fight. He wants to have a fight. Crash instead goads him into throwing a pitch at him. Nuke's like, "I could kill you with the pitch." And he's like, "Yeah, from what I heard, you couldn't hit water if you fell out of a fucking boat." And sure enough, Nuke's pitch fails to hit Crash, breaks a window instead, and then Crash punches him out. And as Nuke is lying on the ground, Crash says, "I'm Crash Davis. I'm your new catcher. And you just got lesson number 1. Don't think. It can only hurt the ball club."
A couple of interesting things here. I like that. Well, number one, the fucking boat line that actually comes from L.A. Dodgers coach Tommy Lasorda. I think he said that about a player in Kurt Bavacqua and from the Padres in 1994. So that's a real lifeline. But the Criterion site, if you go to it, there's a article by a guy named Chris Wagner of the New York Times and the San Francisco Chronicle where he points out the use of the music that's played in the background. And it's really interesting. We don't think about these needle drops or these songs as anything to do with story, but the song that plays when Annie sees Nuke dancing for the first time, it's George Thorogood's Born to Be Bad. And it's basically commenting on bad boys. And so you have Crash and you have Ebby who are bad boys, but Crash seems more like an introvert. He's not like the party boy, right? And this it kind of, that's the thing, when Nuke asks Annie to dance and they have that kind of confrontation, it brings out this bad boyness in Crash that I don't think he's comfortable with. And I think that's really cool in Costner's performance. He's like, why did I do that? Why did I shoot my mouth off? You can see that in his eyes. But then it switches to Tina Turner's I Idolize You, which plays as kind of a romantic accompaniment for that fist fight. Like when they come back in and Annie's like, well, maybe it's just some homosexual tendencies you guys are fighting. That's literally what it is. They're going out and they're having a dance. They're fighting. That's what you would see in like a romantic comedy, except it's with two guys this time. And so I just like that music is kind of like a commentary on what's going on. And again, it kind of adds a new dimension to it that you don't really think of until you start looking into what the songs actually mean or what the articles are. I just thought that was a really cool choice.
That's
that is interesting. Yeah. And the first movie in our sports rom-com series that we covered was Challengers. And it was very important in that movie for Luca Guadagnino that all the sides of the triangle touch. And this movie too, that follows the rule. All the parts of the triangle touch. Everybody has a relationship with everybody else in this movie.
It's interesting because I almost picked this as one of my double feature titles because Challengers in a way feels like a semi sort of remake of this, because you do have the two players. You do have the girl that's in the middle that tries to hone both of their talents. You have a scene where they go back to the hotel room and it's the three of them, right?
Yep.
It doesn't go as far in Bull Durham, but it's kind of it's kind of the same thing. But then again, you have Crash and you have Nuke who are basically dancing around each other. If that was like an LGBTQ movie, they would have ended up together. Or if it was one was a girl, like in His Girl Friday or whatever, they would have ended up together. I just think it was they don't, like I said, they don't dive into it, but it's very interesting that it's there as kind of like a latent kind of background thing. And then Challengers, I thought it was fun that it really kind of delved a little more into that relationship.
Yeah. So we do now. Crash and Nuke both end up going back to Annie's house, and she lays out her whole program for them. And I've got a clip of that I'm going to play right now.
These are the ground rules. I hook up with one guy a season. Usually takes me a couple weeks to pick the guy. It's kind of my own spring training. And, well, you two are the most promising prospects of the season so far. So I just thought we should kind of get to know each other.
Time out. Why do you get to choose?
What?
Why do you get to choose? I mean, why don't I get to choose? Why doesn't he get to choose?
Well, actually, nobody on this planet ever really chooses each other. I mean, it's all a question of quantum physics, molecular attraction, and timing. I mean, there are laws we don't understand that bring us together and tear us apart. I mean, it's like pheromones. You get 3 ants together, they can't do dick. You get 300 million of them, they can build a cathedral.
So is somebody going to go to bed with somebody or what?
Honey, you are a regular nuclear meltdown. You better cool off. Wait, where are you going?
After 12 years in the minor leagues, I don't try out. Besides, I don't believe in quantum physics when it comes to matters of the heart.
What do you believe in then?
Well, I believe in the soul. The cock, the pussy, the small of a woman's back, the hanging curveball, high fiber, good scotch, that the novels of Susan Sontag are self-indulgent, overrated crap. I believe Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone. I believe there ought to be a constitutional amendment outlawing AstroTurf and the designated hitter. I believe in the sweet spot, softcore pornography, opening your presents Christmas morning rather than Christmas Eve, and I believe in long, slow, deep, soft, wet kisses that last 3 days. Good night.
Oh, my. Crash?
Hey, Annie, what's all this molecule stuff?
Crash? Crash, wait. Look, all I want is a date. I'm not going to fall in love with you or nothing.
I'm not interested in a woman who's interested in that boy. Good night.
Well, I'm not interested yet.
Who you calling a boy?
See you at the yard, meet.
Damn, nobody's ever said no to a date with me before.
He's crazy. I want you bad.
So we get Annie lays out her program and Crash shuts it down.
So I think, when I watched it for the first time, I was like, wow, that's quite a speech and then listening to Shelton's commentary on it, he's like, nobody really talks this way. Maybe I do. And he's like, it was kind of, he feels like it was a little self-indulgent of him as a writer, but it's great. I'm glad it was kept. I'm glad he kept it. As far as Crash's little speech back to her.
Yeah, like in his book, he said he needed something a bit over the top, quotable, and unforgettable. And he said the speech is intended to get Annie's attention while making Crash hard to characterize, which I love because he throws out all these different ideas. You can't quite pin him down, but they're all kind of intriguing in their own way. Oh, and apparently it wasn't originally Susan Sontag's novels. It was originally Thomas Pynchon, but I guess somebody from Thomas Pynchon's estate or something, or somebody affiliated with Thomas Pynchon got pissed off or something. So,
Wow.
So they're like, we don't want to mess with that.
I think Crash is so passionate. That's what kind of wins. And he says how many words that are much deeper and more meaningful than anything that's going to come out of Ebby's mouth through the whole movie. Right. So yeah, he's matching her Ebby doesn't understand what she's talking about. Right.
No.
All he's like is, who's going to sleep with you? But like, I think Crash gets her and she gets him. And so again, this is the first time where it's like, oh yeah, these two are definitely going to be together because they have a connection.
Tim Robbins is so smart in real life, and he plays such a great doofus in this movie. Just so great.
I love him when he plays doofuses. I don't know what it is. Hudsucker Proxy, I really like him a lot. Bob Roberts, he's such a noob that it's just, I don't know, it's charming in a way, or it suits him. I don't know.
He's so tall. He does that whole big lunk oaf kind of stereotype. Yeah,
exactly.
That's great. Yeah, this is the moment where like these two could easily connect, but they just miss each other. Yeah. And yeah, she's met her match basically, and he's met his match, but he's not going to compete for her with like this boy basically.
Well, isn't it embarrassing that they're both there and they both know what they're there for? Are they going to all do it? You know what I mean? Are they all going to form a threesome, or is it just going to be with? But she flat out says, I only choose one, and I'm monogamous
Yeah.
to that one." And I love that Crash is nope. He takes charge. He takes agency in that moment. He's like, I'm not doing this. This isn't me. I'm not. I don't need this. And so he kind of charges out. And again, I think that's what kind of throws her for a loop.
Yeah, I bet it's the first time that's ever happened to her.
She says so.
Yeah.
No one's ever not wanted to date me or.
Yeah, yeah. All right, so we have now seen Annie, Nuke, and Crash all at Annie's house, and Crash has left the scene, which leaves Annie alone with Nuke, who is now her option for the season. She just kind of defaults to Nuke now. She doesn't like put him through any more tests. She doesn't
You're
like
right.
you know,
Other than
wait
reading him
another
poetry,
day.
I guess.
Yeah, but I think he's already in the program. That seems
Yeah.
that seems like day one of the program. Yeah, she puts on her Edith Piaf record and she lights some candles. She ties Nuke up to the bed. He's expecting some fun times. And then she says, "You ever heard of Walt Whitman?" To which he says, "Who's he play for?" And she says, "He sort of pitches for the Cosmic All-Stars." And then she reads him Walt Whitman. Specifically, I think I Sing the Body Electric, although she kind of skips around in that poem. And yeah, it's a whole scene going on here. What do you guys think of Annie's techniques? Do you think it has much to do with baseball? She says, "When you know how to make love, then you'll know how to pitch." What do you think of her philosophy and her program here, what we see of it?
Well, I mean, I guess it depends on the guy. Nuke is gonna go along with it, where like Crash wouldn't have. He'd be like, what are you talking about here? And meet her, poetry for poetry versus Nuke. He's like, I guess I'll guess.
This kind of begs the question, would she use the same routine on each player? Like if Crash had somehow
Sure.
been her, I don't know, mentee or whatever for this season, what would her program for him be? I don't know. But
It would
Right.
seem a little redundant after his speech, I think, to read him that.
Yes.
He could probably recite it to
Does
her.
she, all the years that she has done this, do they all get the same lessons, as it were, I guess?
Yeah, syllabus, basically. She's a
syllabus.
professor. She has a syllabus.
Right.
It could also, I mean, she's also teaching him maybe to get in the mood, kind of. I don't know, to slow down. That's her whole thing, right? Because he's what he fucks all over the place, is what they say, right? So she's trying to get him to focus where to put it, I guess. So, and it's also like, I think sex is like a two-way thing, right? It's not so much the one, like to really make it work, you have to have both parties involved, if that makes any sense. So she's trying to get him in the same mind space as her, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I Sing the Body Electric. From what I can, I was reading through the poem, and from what I can gather about it, it seems like it's really talking about the physical body, but also sort of relating the body to the spirit in a sense too. So I think maybe, I'm sure that was an intentional choice on Shelton's part to put that poem there. And just sort of connecting the body and the spirit might be something that's going on. This really nice precursor to the 1990s, really. Like, this is what led to the Pure Moods album. I don't know.
Right.
That's funny. Interesting that she, for a person who doesn't even know who Walt Whitman is, like, she kind of starts in heavy, know. She doesn't give him ease him in.
No, she's right. We're getting into the classics here. We're not going to start with a nursery rhyme. Yeah. But how about this notion, if you know how to make love, you know how to pitch? Do you feel like these sex and sports can be combined in this way? Do they have are there similar skills? Are there similar qualities you need to succeed in these things?
I mean, you're in a team sport, so it's not all about you, right? You do
Exactly.
need to give and take and back off or go hard or whatever, So
And listen. Yeah, and to be able to listen and
listen.
Yeah.
You also find that a lot of people these days, when they look at romances, they think it's a lot of the dude bros will look at it as one-sided. They think that the woman is just there. Basically, they want a blow-up doll is all they want. They don't want somebody that's going to push back or have her own agency or have her own opinions. They kind of just want somebody that's going to sit there and just enable and their every move. And that's not how relationships work. That's why a lot of divorces, I think, happen, because you walk into these relationships thinking everything's going to be hunky-dory. We'll just figure it out with sex or kids or stuff like that. And then, this person has a different opinion from me. It's like, I've got to work this out. But most people just drop it like, this is what I planned at all. I'm going to get out. It's just a weird kind of, from Annie's point of view, I like that she's like you two were talking about. It's about getting them in the same mind space.
Yeah. And I think the interesting thing too is she's specifically dominating him here. She's tying him up and doing what she wants to do. And honestly, like what Crash ends up having to do in some ways is to dominate him on the field. We get into this a little bit later where Nuke's not listening to Crash's signals, and Crash has to figure out a way to like get him into check, to get him to listen to someone else, to get him to like, take on the knowledge that Crash has that is more than what Nuke has.
Don't you think it's also interesting, especially from this point of view, like how Tim Robbins is very vulnerable. Like she makes him undress in front of her, which is like turning the tables in a way from what you usually see. Later, Crash is going to be wearing her robe, painting her toenail. So a lot of people these days will look at it as, that's not very masculine, being kind of objectified, which is, again, that's that push-pull. I just think it's, for Robbins' point of view especially, they're sexualizing him big time, and he's up for it. He wears the garter later, and so it's very... Yeah. He's vulnerable in a lot of ways, and it's weird to say, but it's a brave kind of performance today, where it wouldn't have really been back then, when I guess people were more in touch with their feminine sides.
I think I don't know. I think we are coming to like having men in kind of these vulnerable roles again, at least in like sort of the indie sphere of filmmaking.
Good.
So
Good.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think there was a period of like pretty like conservative portrayals in the 2000s, especially. But I think we're coming back around a bit. I don't know. Now we go back to the ballpark the next day. We have a scene where we're focusing on Crash, who is at bat. He's talking to himself, and he's trying to psych himself up for his, for hitting the ball. But then he's also got Annie on his mind. And Annie is watching him play, and she sends him a note about, I can't remember exactly what she sends him a note about, something about his stance, I think.
His hips, some do his hips.
Okay. Yeah. Something about his stance or his hips or how he's swinging. And he sends a note back, which I believe if you look at it, the note actually says, "Let's fuck." But then Millie reads it to Annie, and it says, "I want to make love to you." Yeah. We're getting
cool because the kid knows what it means.
We're getting censorship right within the movie.
Right.
Like we've censored the note. Yeah, and so he's still making a play for her. She invites him to come meet her at the batting cages to work on his swing. And then they have kind of a conversation where Crash is trying to make another play for Annie again. And Annie says, "Sorry, I'm already committed. I'm monogamous for the baseball season." So any comments about this little exchange that these two have here?
Well, before we get into that, I like this scene again when they're batting, because number one, we talked about how Crash and Annie are basically destined to be together. They're the only two characters in the whole movie that have inner monologues. I thought that was interesting. Later, you see you see a Nuke on the mound, and I think he starts to have like an inner, but it's not. He's actually talking to himself. It's not like an inner monologue. I just thought that was a cool way to connect them, and also the way that Shelton shoots that, where Annie gives the kid the note, and then the kid walks over the dugout, hands it to somebody. The kid hands it to Crash. Crash stands up, writes the note, hands it back to the kid, and then the kid walks it back to Annie. I thought it was a very cool like oneer. Like a lot of these romantic comedies, you don't really expect there to be like cool directorial flourishes. I just thought that was kind of a neat, and in a way, it's kind of a dance, right? They're kind of dancing with each other, and the way he writes the note, and anyway, and so they meet at the batting cage. I just thought that was kind of a cool, kind of artistic choice.
I thought it was cute, like this whole like note passing system,
like kids.
Yeah. I think the scene at the batting cage is every time they're together, it's pretty hot. Like their tension and their, they keep getting really close to each other. And this ball keeps flying right between them, and they're like,
Yeah.
can almost get hit in the face with this ball, and yet doesn't seem to phase them. Like they're both gonna get up there and like challenge the other one. And
Yeah, they have a very good combative energy that like
mhm,
builds that kind of sexual romantic tension. Yeah.
They're dancing together romantically, but also they're playing the sport at the same time, that they're both interested in. They're talking like adults too. They're having an adult conversation. It's not just all about who's going to sleep with who or let's get down to it, right? She talks about how his minor league record or wherever that he's going to hit. And he's like, I don't want to worry about it, okay? That's not where I'm at. Like it kind of, again, it tells you where they're at mentally, but it's also, they're not just playing a literal game. They're also playing the mind games with each other. And that's what you do when get into a relationship.
Yeah, about that record. So we established in this scene that Crash is about to possibly get the minor league home run record, which in the world of this movie is 246. If he hits 246 runs in the minors, he will have achieved a record. Now, interestingly, in the book about Bull Durham, Ron Shelton said he was wrong. He later found out that a player named Buzz Arlett had hit over 400 home runs in the minor leagues during the Babe Ruth era. And then in 2015, Mike Hessman set a new record with 433 home runs in the minor leagues. And it was noticed. This was something that was noticed. In this movie, it was like portrayed as something that nobody would pay attention to, like that Annie would somehow be the only one who would know. But apparently this is something that is recognized. So, but it's a cool trait for Crash to have. He's not seeking glory. He's not seeking recognition, but I think he's seeking a personal satisfaction in the game.
yeah.
And one more thing about their romantic tension here, Crash sort of accuses Annie of being scared of being with him, that she doesn't want to have to deal with him. She'd rather be with this uncomplicated young guy. Crash doesn't even want to compete in the same field as, Tim Robbins' Nuke, this kind of doofy character. It's like, what do you even see in him, basically?
Right.
And later that night, Annie goes back to Nuke. They're having sex. Maybe it's later that night. Maybe it's a couple days later. We don't know. And Annie says Crash's name during the act. And Nuke is initially very upset, but then she says, honey, would you rather I be making love to him using your name or making love to you using his name? And Nuke says, yeah, maybe you're right.
Such a dope.
I love this
Such a
character,
dope.
though. He's so funny.
Yeah.
He's honestly the funniest part of the movie for me, though. He's just so pure, sort of. All right, now we're going to go visit the other part of the love triangle, the Crash and Nuke axis of the love triangle. Crash is starting to try to mentor Nuke during the game, and Nuke is resistant. He's trying to signal to Nuke what pitches he should throw. Nuke won't have it, so Crash tells the batter what pitch to expect when Nuke ignores the signal. I thought that was pretty funny. Apparently, Ron Shelton says this has happened. People have done this.
Yeah. He did say that in the commentary too. He's like, took this from experience and knew a catcher who did this, and so
it reminds you that there's strategy to baseball. It reminds you that it's not just you walk up to the plate, you hit the ball. There's, I guess, the most control over the game is between the pitcher and the catcher, because they're communicating, right? The catcher knows what kind of balls he's reading the batter, and so he's kind of basically guessing what the guy will swing at. So he's gesturing like certain throws so they can. And again, it's all about that communication, which Nuke doesn't have with anybody. He doesn't have it with Annie, right? So he also doesn't have it with Crash. And so I like that this goes back. It's not the greatest, my favorite baseball movie ever made, but as far as like the little details of what baseball is and how you play it, they're all there. It's very nice. It's part of the texture of the actual movie, even though it's, it's more like I don't know, because they treat it just like a given or a natural thing. They don't focus on it too much. Like it's not, we're just expected to keep up. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
But I love that it brings that out. Again, this will tell you everything about baseball, the give and take. And it's not something that you really notice. Again, maybe because this came out so early and you've seen so many baseball movies after.
We've got a really fun quote in this scene too. Crash tells Nuke, don't try to strike everybody out. Strikeouts are boring. They're fascist. Throw some ground balls. It's more democratic. And apparently this is an actual quote from a baseball player, Red Sox player, Bill Spaceman Lee. So I saw an elaboration from that player on this quote, and it was something like, you have to throw balls so everybody gets a chance to hit.
Yeah.
Funny.
It's the little league mentality.
I kind of like it though. I kind of like it. Like,
Play fair.
The audience doesn't want to just watch a game where nobody hits anything either, really. I mean,
Well, it's
maybe
basketball, like nothing
Yeah.
but 3-pointers. Like nobody wants, there's no skill in that, really. I mean, there's skill, but it's like not as fun to watch, I guess.
Yeah, unless somebody's hitting and running in baseball, it's fairly boring.
Yeah.
Anybody watch? I mean, definitely on TV, I think it's a boring game to watch. Live, it's a little more fun, but still, when they're just kind of standing there and no one's running
Yeah, you're
around,
right.
you're like, that's why minor league is so much fun, because they do all these fun little acts and stuff between the team switching and stuff like that. It's a good time.
So the team is not doing well in this game. Crash does hit a home run. Apparently he's the only one who's doing well. And the manager confides in Crash that he's worried about the team and how they're not doing well, to which Crash says, scare them. And so the manager does this. He goes and he throws all the bats into the shower, makes all the players stand in the shower. And then I want to do it every rom-com theater of this scene, if anybody else is up to it. I have the manager's lines down. I just kind of need a Larry. Is there anybody who's willing to be my Larry?
I
Be the Larry.
You can be, yeah, let Sophia be the Larry. I want to hear
Oh my
this.
God, this is so much fun. I saw this and I was like, yay, every rom-com theater.
So we're going to start our every rom-com theater. I am the manager, and Sophia's going to be Larry, the assistant. You guys, you lollygag the ball around the infield. You lollygag your way down to first. You lollygag in and out of the dugout. Do you know what that makes you, Larry?
Lollygaggers.
Lollygaggers. What's our record, Larry?
8-16.
8-16. How'd we ever win 8?
It's a miracle.
It's a miracle. This is a simple game. You throw the ball. You hit the ball. You catch the ball. You got it?
Hilarious.
This scene goes on. He talks about how they're about to go on a road trip. But yeah, I love this scene. I love these two actors in this scene. He's such just like the platonic ideal of like a team manager and his coach, you know?
Yeah.
Trey Wilson and Robert Will, they have this really easy. It feels like like I said before, it feels like they've been together for a while.
Lollygaggers. And what a great word.
That's
Lollygaggers. All right.
Yeah, for several days I was hoping that I had some reason to use the word lollygaggers, but I was not able to. So that was bad.
You lollygagging. Funny.
So he scares the team, and then they go on this road trip. And but before the road trip, we see a scene where one of the guys on the team gets released from the team. So basically fired from the team. Yeah. And that's a precursor to something we're going to see later in the movie. Yep. And as the team leaves for the road trip, Annie gives Nuke a garter to wear. She tells him it will help him play better. But Ron Shelton apparently wrote this into the script as a narrative device to keep Annie as part of the story and dynamic, even when she wasn't physically there during those scenes. So I think that's interesting.
Cool. Yeah.
All right, and now we're going to be on the bus, and there's a scene where I honestly partly just clipped this because I love it's the peak Tim Robbins doof in this movie, really. Nuke as a doof, but it also has some interesting dynamics between Nuke and Crash in this bus scene. So I'm going to go ahead and play that.
She may get woolly, young girls that do get woolly. Because of all the stress, yeah. When they get woolly, try a little tenderness, yeah. Stop it. Thank you. What?
It's not woolly. Nobody gets woolly. Women get weary. They don't get woolly. Nobody's got stress. They're wearing a dress. God damn, I hate people that get the words wrong.
How come you don't like me?
You don't respect yourself, which is your problem. But you don't respect the game, and that's my problem. You got a gift.
What do I got?
You got a gift. When you were a baby, the gods reached down and turned your right arm into a thunderbolt. You got a Hall of Fame arm, but you're pissing it away.
I ain't pissing nothing away. I got a Porsche already. I got a 911 with a quadraphonic Blaupause.
Christ, you don't need a quadraphonic blah punk. What you need is a curveball. Huh? In the show, everybody can hit a fastball.
Well, how would you know? You've been in the majors?
Yeah, I've been in the majors.
Yeah? Where were you? You've been in the show, man?
Yeah, I was in the show.
Were you?
I was in the show for 21 days once.
Wow.
21 greatest days of my life.
It's not bad.
You know, you never handle your luggage in the show. Somebody else carries your bags. It's great. You hit white balls for batting practice. Ballparks are like cathedrals. The hotels all have room service. The women all have long legs and brains.
They're really hot, huh?
Yeah, and so are the pitchers. They throw ungodly breaking stuff in the show. Exploding sliders. Could be one of those guys. You could be one of those guys, but you don't give a fuck, me.
Listen, I'm sick and fucking tired of you calling me meat. You want to step outside?
Yeah, I'll step outside.
Hey!
You want to step outside and they're on a bus. I love it.
Yep.
Anyway, I love that dynamic. The whole get woolly just takes me out, man. Like,
It's hilarious.
and I heard you were laughing a bit there, Darin, too, during that part.
Well, I just think it's cute, the part where Crash is such a control freak that he won't even let him sing the wrong lyrics. And it reminded me of this one time that I took a trip with my mom and she was singing Louis Armstrong's It's a Wonderful World. And I was trying to fall asleep in the back and she was singing to keep herself awake. And she kept saying, and I say to myself, what a wonderful world. I'm like, Mom, it's think to myself. She goes, oh, it's think. I'm like, yeah, it's think. You're keeping me up. She goes, oh, I always thought it was say. And then she kept singing the right words and I fell asleep. I was just laughing because it reminded me of that.
At least she picked a probable word. Like,
I know, right?
Yeah.
Woolly?
I hear words. There's songs that I have heard for like 20 years. I still don't know the lyrics. My kid hears them and she gets the words right. I'm like, how do you do that? I get them wrong all the time. So I kind of feel for Crash or Nuke here, but
Well, Sophia, just as long as you remember, nobody gets woolly.
nobody gets woolly.
They get weary. Yeah.
That's one of the things we can learn from this movie. I love the dynamic here, though, and I love how it tells you another thing about Crash. It really, really brings home now his sort of humility, his lack of interest in glory, because nobody on this team knows that he was in the major leagues for a while. Nobody. Right. And like immediately, as soon as they find out he was in the show, they have so much more respect for him. They are all ears.
His character is just this, like, he's this career ball player and this career minor leaguer. And Shelton talks about wanting to show how, like, rough and tumble the minor leagues were at this trashy bus and these, trashy hotels, and it's not glamorous. And it can get old pretty fast, and it's like a young man's game. Young men can handle that for a while, but Crash keeps at it because he loves the game so much. Even having been in the majors, he still came back.
Yeah,
even to play in the minors.
This could also be one of those narrative, the team building movies. It's there once they get to know each other and start to respect each other, they start to play better and work better as a team. And yeah, maybe they should have known about that before, because it doesn't seem like any of these guys talk to each other, right? They know what each other does, but that's about it. So I don't know. It just seemed like one of those, as soon as they start, oh, you've been in the show, and they start really bonding, that's when they're going to start playing better as a team. But
not yet, because the road trip montage shows us that they are still not winning. And Nuke is not wearing the garter, which is clearly why he's not winning. And only Crash is playing well, according to the announcer guy that we see in this montage. This fantastic setup where these this announcer is faking crowd noise and bats striking balls and stuff
Yeah.
while being told what happens in the game on a telephone call. So that's amazing.
It took me a minute to realize. It always takes me a minute to realize what he's doing. Like, why is he? Oh, okay. They're not really there, so they have to pretend that they're there. It's kind of a cute idea.
Yeah, I mean, we could narrate a baseball game right now if we wanted. Anyway,
Good, yeah.
Yeah. Now we also have a scene where Crash gives them a rain out by putting the sprinklers on the field. So we've got one of those team prank scenes, kind of. And yeah, and then Nuke's dream on the mound where he's naked except for, I guess, his like jock strap and like the garter. Yep,
He's
naked
all
on the
oiled
mound.
up.
He's all oiled up.
Again,
I
it's very
didn't know.
interesting how they objectify him in this, and how willing Robbins is to go for it and look silly and look again like he's oiled up like a turkey. You know that. I kind of say that because a man is oiled up. It's a little different from how I look at it, like a woman oiled. You know, it's kind of a weird, different kind of dynamic. But it's funny that you watch these. They're very brave performances because he's looking like a fool. But that's part of the comedy, right? And so, or his character. So I think it works. It's just very interesting, these performances.
All right. Does anyone have anything else they want to talk about this section before we do a little bit about minor league baseball?
I will say that is a tender moment when he wakes up, or I think Crash wakes him up, and he's like, "You're dreaming," and Nuke's like, "I had this dream, I was naked," or whatever, and Crash is like, "Yeah, I have that dream too." Like, you never kind of shake the nerves, and that you've always got to psych yourself up to like get to bat or do your game well, and so
Yeah,
I appreciate that little moment there.
Yeah, they're not quite big brother, little brother yet, but they're getting
Not
there.
quite, but it's a moment.
So before we do our spoiler section, I'm just going to give a little bit of information about the minor leagues. So just baseball in general, though, the history of baseball in general, baseball evolved out of cricket and a game called rounders. And for a long time, there was a precursor to the baseball we know today in the United States that was known as town ball. According to the National Baseball Hall of Fame, baseball was already a popular game in the United States by the 1840s, and it was played by soldiers fighting on both sides of the Civil War, which helped to popularize it further when people went home from war and took the game back to their towns. And
wow.
And the first Major League Baseball organization was established in 1871. And then minor league teams have existed since 1901. In 1902, there were 96 teams. The next kind of significant development in 1921, major league teams began owning minor league teams. And that's when they sort of started using the minor league teams as their, like, I think it's called like farm teams that would help them develop players.
Right.
And then kind of the peak of minor league play in the United States was post-World War II, but pre-television, which was like a very small period of time, really. But that was kind of the height of the minor league. At its peak, there were 59 leagues with 450 teams. And there was a regular season attendance record of 39.7 million in 1949. That was only broken in 2009 when they had an attendance record of 41.6 million. So yeah, that little post-war period was a real like big time for minor league baseball. And in terms of like minor league, how it's divided, the minor league baseball site lists the teams as divided into 4 classes: AAA, which is the highest, AA, high A, and single A. And then there's also something called rookie leagues. In 2025, there are 120 teams total. There was a reduction a few years ago in the number of teams. And the Durham Bulls is still a team, and it continues to play AAA baseball, so the highest level. And a 2025 article listed them as one of the teams to watch this year. So they're still, they are prospering. And Sophia, I guess you already know that the St. Paul Saints are a AAA team in your city.
Yes.
And you said that you have been to see their games. And what is that experience? How many games have you been to? What is that experience like?
So our friend and neighbor gets season tickets, and when she can't go, she's like, "You want to go to the game?" And so she gifts us, and that she's got beautiful seats behind the dugout, so we're like not out in the field, and that's amazing. And it's so much fun. It's a fairly recent stadium. maybe 12 years old, so it's new and it's like all fancy. I mean, my very first minor league game I ever saw was the Brooklyn Cyclones that play out in Coney Island, which was also a hoot. And you're right on the ocean and the beach, and that was an older stadium, so more like what the Durham Bulls are playing in, a little more rugged, but also just just such a fun time, and they do have all these acts that come out, and they're especially with the Saints, they're these characters that come out every year, and they're kind of famous. There's this one guy who dresses up like a kind of a 80s coach. He's got these shorts and these aviator glasses, and they get the crowds going. It's a good time.
Did you ever meet the players after the game or anything like that?
No, but like we're right by the dugout, so we get to watch them going in and out, like into the locker room or whatever. And I'm like, look at those fit young men. And I'm like, golly.
So they're not lollygaggers.
No, there is kind of a lot of lollygagging. There's a lot of standing around for for as athletic as they need to be. There's a lot of standing around.
That's actually kind of one of the reasons I've liked baseball when I was younger, is because like you do have to be in action, but you're not in constant action. Like when I would play soccer, I would want to vomit because you're running so much. When you play baseball, you get a little bit of a reprieve there.
Yep.
Anyway.
Yep.
All right. So yeah, just a little more information. Like we already kind of alluded to this, but today's minor league players, they have like a variety of different working and living conditions. So some of them actually are making a good salary. There are a certain amount of minor league players that get included in major league teams' 40-man rosters. And that is kind of like a roster of players that you can pull up if you need a replacement player or something like that. So those people make $300,000 a year because they're on that roster. But then there's also minor league players who are making around $1,500 a month. Mm-hmm. And, so the living and traveling conditions will vary greatly depending on what position you're in. And players are playing nearly every day during the season, and they are often on the road. So it is, like Sophie you were saying, kind of a young man's game in a lot of ways. You have to really hang in there.
Yeah.
And so if you also said that you talked to, I think it was your cousin's husband who was a minor league player. Is there anything you want to share from what he had to say?
No, my goodness, like everything that you touched on there, he talked about too. And like, he's like, it really is gritty, and you are on the bus and you are in like, raunchy hotels and stuff like that. And then, they didn't, for all the working out and practice and playing and whatnot. I mean, you don't make a lot of money. He's like, you break it down and it's like $1 an hour, a couple dollars an hour. And when in the off season, you need an off season job. He was a bartender, and he made more money bartending than he did playing. So, I mean, he said it was fun and he loved it. Of course, he played in college and whatnot. But after like 2 seasons, he was like, I'm done. That was fun, but no thanks.
And did he say anything about whether he had seen or enjoyed this movie or not?
Yes. He had seen it and he remembered it, and he said, it does do a really good job portraying this, that life that Shelton was trying to show, like this kind of, rugged life. And then, there's a hot shot sometimes, and that the Chase character just being this like lifer, not making any money, a relative loner, but he loves the game so much. I mean, he's in like a room for let. That's where, he lives during the season. It's not glamorous at all. And his words were, it's gritty. And, but Chase loves the game.
Wait, Crash?
Sorry. Why am I saying Chase?
Sorry, I don't know.
Yeah. Who's Chase?
Chasing after that Kevin Costner again.
Yes, chasing after that Kevin Costner. So thanks, Jeff, for all your insight into the game. That was fun calling him. Like, hey, man.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, we should have him call into the show next time if we ever do baseball again. I don't know if we will, but could happen.
That'd be fun. Yeah.
All right, so now we're going to enter the spoiler section of the episode. So if you have not watched Bull Durham and you want to be spoiler free, it's a good time now to press pause and then go watch the movie and come back and join us. All right, so we're now back in Durham after the unsuccessful road trip, and Annie has new lessons for Nuke. She tells him to breathe through his eyeballs, and then she also wants him to rechannel his sexual energy into the game that night. So she does not have sex with him when he gets back. Nuke also finally tries the garters, and Crash sees him trying them on in the locker room, and he kind of pats him on the butt too. Yes,
A good pat.
Yeah, they
yes.
do. They do that, don't they? They're like whack each other's butts.
he's like, "That's hot." He goes, "That's hot."
Yep.
So that's as close as we're going to get to a challengers moment, really, between these two.
That's fine.
Hey, at least they're brushing past it. At least it's there.
And then tells them how to wear them right, which
Yep.
is
Yeah.
funny.
Rose goes in the front, big guy.
Rose goes in the front. Hilarious.
Then we see Nuke out on the mound there, and he says, "This underwear feels kind of sexy. That don't make me queer, right?" Right. He like answers himself. Oh my god, such a doof. And finally, Nuke takes some pitching advice from Crash, but then he tries to rebel again, and Crash does the thing again where he tells the batter what pitch is coming. So he's sort of learned and he sort of hasn't learned.
Is this the one with the deuce? Is this that he goes, "Oh, here, Charlie, here comes the deuce"? Or is that later?
Yeah, I think this is the one with the deuce.
I
yeah.
love that. It's like, okay, Charlie, here comes the deuce. When you speak to me, speak well. And I love how the batter is laughing. It's very charming.
Yep. Now we have this montage of them winning, which is set to the song Center Field by John Fogerty, which my husband said he had never heard before. I'm like, what? I know, right? Right?
Don't they play it with every baseball movie?
I mean, I don't know, but like it was on all the time in the 80s. I'm just saying, like it was on all the time. And he's like, no, never heard. And I'm like, whatever, honey. I don't know.
Well, I'm a Fogerty fan, so that might help.
Well, I'll sing a touch for the audience that doesn't know what I'm talking about, but it's the one that goes, "Put me in, coach. I'm ready to play today." You know it, Sophia, right?
I think so.
Oh, okay. Look at me. I can be center field. Dun, 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 dun. Anyway.
Great song. Great song.
Nice.
I was utterly bewildered by this. Anyway. All right, so yeah, we have a montage though with them finally winning games, and Annie delivers a monologue sort of over this montage. When Nuke started listening to Crash, everything fell into place. He started throwing strikes, and we started to win. But Nuke was still confused. He was so encouraged by his victory that he vowed not to have sex until he lost. Unfortunately, however, he kept on winning. And for one extraordinary June and July, the Durham Bulls began playing baseball with joy and verve and poetry. The two sides of my own brain were all jumbled up and cross-wired. While one side was being neglected, the other was in paradise, watching our Bulls playing like big leaguers. And then I'm leaving a little bit out here. After sweeping the July 4th doubleheader, the Durham Bulls were tied for first. Beautiful as the winning streak was, I was getting damn lonely. Something had to be done. I needed a man. We have now one of the tropes of a baseball movie, which is the winning streak, that's supposedly is caused by something a player is doing.
Or not doing.
or not doing, yes, or not doing in this case. Yeah, any comments on this montage or, any of it?
I really like the montage. I like when it's, because that's where you get, it's not so much dialogue and it's more visuals. You get the music. You can pick your song titles or whatever. But, this and something like League of Their Own, it's really exciting how you see them, settling in as a team. So I think it's, it's one of the requisite parts of any sports movie, I think.
Yeah, and it's good when it's not overused, too. It's definitely not overused here. And now, after this montage, we have another bus scene. Now, Nuke and Crash are kind of buddies, and Nuke is actually asking Crash for advice. You also notice that Nuke is dressed more like Crash here. In the first part of the movie, Nuke is very flashy. He's wearing these like really patterned shirts, like loud patterns and so forth. and very flashy. And now he's wearing, I think it's like a polo shirt and khakis almost, which is basically what Crash has been wearing for the whole movie. So he's becoming the student of, he is the student of Crash at this point. And Crash, instead of giving like ball player advice, teaches Nuke some interview cliches, things that he should tell reporters after the game, such as, I just want to give it my best shot, and the good Lord willing, things will work out.
Fantastic. Fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, anyone who's ever watched a sports interview, you're like, okay.
Yep. Yep.
They've got it down. They've obviously been coached.
And then Nuke says that he might sleep with Annie because she's getting real upset that they haven't had sex. But Crash says that he should keep on not sleeping with Annie, saying never fuck with a winning streak. Now, do you guys think this is pure advice, or is there some selfishness in here too?
Tough to say, because they're all superstitious and they're all like, yeah, I think he does mean don't mess with a winning streak, but also to his advantage too.
Yeah, it's playing to both sides that he wants, right? But he's getting what he wants both ways. But I also like that it's teaching Nuke, like, yeah, you love winning, like keep with it, keep what you're doing, like don't do that. So I like that. It is helping him out. It's not totally selfish, but it's not totally selfless.
Now we get off the bus, we get back home again, and Annie tries to seduce Nuke. She's wearing this little halter top. Yeah, she's wearing a little halter top without a back, and then she puts her leg right in front of Nuke, like just lays it out on the table, and then she's like, "I'm going to teach you hand-eye coordination by you can remove my stocking." And he's trying to unsnap this garter, and he is just not succeeding at it, which is an important thing. It will come in later.
Chekhov's garter. Yep.
That's right. I don't know if there's been a Chekhov's garter in any other movie.
Well, here it is.
And Nuke reveals to Annie now that Crash told him to keep not sleeping with her, which leads to Annie confronting Crash. She barges in on him while he's ironing in his underwear, a very intimate situation. And I've got a little clip for us of that.
How dare you tell Nuke to stay out of my bed? You are messing with my private life.
Knock, knock, come in.
You're
Where's
confusing him.
thank you.
You're confusing him. You're bending his mind all out of
What?
shape. You're confusing him.
Confusing him? You got him breathing out of the wrong goddamn eyelid. You got him parading around the locker room like a fruit.
That is a religious ritual, and it happens to be working, if you don't mind my saying.
Wait a second. Wait. Who dresses you?
What?
Who dresses you? I mean, do you think this is a little excessive for the Carolina League?
The road of excess leads to the Palace of Wisdom, William Blake.
What, William Blake?
William Blake.
What, William Blake?
William Blake.
What do you mean, William Blake?
I mean William Blake.
Who are you? I mean, do you have a job?
I teach part-time at Alamance Junior College. English 101 and beginning composition.
Having a conversation with you is like is like a Martian talking to a fungo.
Oh, cute. That's really... just because sometimes you manage to be clever and you have a nice smile does not mean you are not full of shit.
But I'm full of shit?
You're full
I'm
of
full
shit.
of shit?
You
You're
are full
Nuke's
of shit.
chastity was your idea.
I know. I'm telling you, just keep your hands out.
I never
That's what
told
I'm
him
telling
to
you. Oh,
stay
yes,
out of
you
your
did.
bed.
You most certainly
I
did.
never told him to stay out of your
Yes, you
bed.
did.
I told him that a player on a streak has to respect the streak.
Fine.
You know why? Because they don't happen very often.
Right.
If you believe you're playing well because you're getting laid, or because you're not getting laid, or because you wear women's underwear, then you are. And you should know that. Come on, Annie, think of something clever to say, huh? Something full of magic, religion, bullshit. Come on, dazzle me.
I want you.
What?
I said I want you.
Stop it.
All right. This is the best scene, I think, for me between Sarandon and Costner. What do you guys think?
Yeah, it's like they're finally going head to head, right? They're finally like, they're not dancing anymore. They're finally getting into it. And I like how he's confronting her about all her, like her bullshit techniques, and she's doing the same thing. So again, they're even though they're not really saying anything really, what they're not saying says everything. I don't know if that makes any sense. It's just nice that he tells her, like, you're spinning all these traditions. Like, if you believe that this is happening, this is not happening, then it is. That's just how it is. And it basically shuts her up in a way. And he expects her to come back with something. She doesn't. The only thing she comes back is something very, very vulnerable, but still.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just think that they're not quite there yet. Obviously, they're going to end up together, but they still got stuff to work out. I don't know. I just like that whole. Again, they're opening some barriers or breaking down some barriers here, and I think that's what makes it more meaningful.
Yeah. Why do you think he doesn't accept her offer? Is it out of loyalty to Nuke, I wonder, or the team, or is it his own pride? I wonder.
For me, it would be her mind wouldn't be fully, because she's monogamous, right? She's still technically with Nuke. So her mind's not going to be 100% on him. That's not something that I would want. They're not, like I said, they're not quite there yet.
Well, I mean, she kind of calls him a little bit. She's like, "You're scared." And he's like, "Maybe I am," yeah, I also think he thinks it's not the right time too. They've got this winning streak and there is this dynamic between her and Nuke still, and if it's going good, the winning streak, you don't mess with it.
Yeah. I think
But they're also pretty vulnerable too. Like he's in his underwear. She's dressed pretty sexy, but it still doesn't go anywhere. Like obviously there are layers there are fewer barriers, literally fabric between them, but they're still not mentally prepared. They're not mentally there yet.
Yeah. They have great chemistry in this scene, though. Great acting chemistry. Like, I think overall in the movie, I think Sarandon actually has better chemistry with Robbins, probably because they were actually getting together. But
yeah.
But in this scene, it really crackles for me. Yeah. All right. So, and there was a whole other scene that had more of Annie's backstory, and she told all about how she got into baseball, et cetera, et cetera. But apparently it didn't test well in test screenings, and it was cut since it seemed to slow the back end of the movie down. So, that
It's interesting, though, because the end shot, the camera, sorry to jump ahead, but during the credits, the camera focuses on one player's face. And I was like, well, who is that? And you look into it. It's Thurman Lee Munson. He was a catcher for the New York Yankees. He died in a plane crash on August 2nd. I've got it right. It's 1979. But the scene has to do with where I think Annie got in a fight with her dad. And so she ended up at one of these tryouts of these games or something like that. And she met Thurman Munson. And so that kind of started her love of the game. And I think that's why they had that shot at the end. And so I understand if it didn't test well with audiences, but it does give you more insight, like you two were talking about into her character, and also make sense of why they would focus on the guy's face at the end. It doesn't make any sense without that scene.
Too bad in that Criterion DVD, they didn't have that deleted scene.
Oh, they don't?
Nice.
Interesting. Okay.
I don't think so. I didn't catch it.
All right. Now we've got a bunch of things happen. We're coming to near the end of the movie now. We have a scene at the ballpark where a bunch of stuff is going on. Nuke's dad is at the game, which is making him nervous. One player thinks his glove has been cursed, and players all around are wondering what to give Millie and Jimmy for their wedding. So we didn't really talk much about them, but Jimmy is a very religious player, and Millie, of course, is the girl who sleeps with kind of all the players. But she and Jimmy, against all odds, are getting married. They've ended up together. And so all these players end up on the mound, like just talking about their various problems. And then the assistant coach goes to sort this out. This scene apparently was in danger of being cut many times, but it's very funny.
It's my favorite scene in the whole movie.
Yeah.
You know what? I agree. This is my favorite. Yeah.
It is. Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
Ladies first, Sophie.
Oh, wow. Ooh, okay. I just think it's utterly hilarious. And my kind of favorite bit is when the assistant coach comes up and he's, "What's going on?" And Costner's like, "Well, we're dealing with a lot of shit here, Totally serious. They're all serious. And then apparently the actor who plays the assistant coach, I forgot his name, like
Robert Walt,
that line about like candles or candlesticks making a good wedding gift or something. And I love how he goes, and we should check her registry. Like he knew that detail. Yeah. Very good.
Costner's line, "We're dealing with a lot of shit." I love that. And it's because they are. Like it sounds very trivial, but these are very serious things that are getting into their heads. And it's just a nice, very human moment. Yeah, Larry's whole thing about how he just candles in the registry. I love that. It's just so it nails a lot of the dynamics of the game and when you're playing and the things that kind of get in your head. It's so human. If they would have cut that out, I would have been I would have
And
been
the
mad.
player who thinks his glove is cursed and he needs a chicken.
Jose,
the chicken
right?
blood. And it's like, we need chicken blood. We need, the wedding gift. And Nuke's dad's here. And like, oh, man.
Yep, it's very funny. It's very mundane, but very funny. Yeah, we need these little rough edges in movies. You need these little extra things. Not everything has to serve the A plot all the time.
Well, this is the kind of thing that I call them like flourishes, like little gems that kind of nail the characters. And a lot of modern movie watchers will watch a scene like this and get mad at it because it doesn't put the plot anywhere. And I'm like, yeah, but it gives you so much insight into their characters. Like, why would you want to cut this out? If you were a filmmaker, you would be boring as shit. You know what I'm talking? You'd cut out all the little fun stuff.
Yeah.
So
this is like people who want to like understand Moby Dick by reading the summary or something, or like letting AI tell them what happened. Like, no.
There's no room for fun.
All right, so we also have a scene where Crash fights with an umpire over a call and ends up calling him a cocksucker, which is apparently the one thing that will get him kicked out of this game. He gets kicked out of the game. They lose the game. And Annie knows that therefore Nuke will be coming over because now they can have sex. But surprising her, he brings his dad. And also it seems like Annie might be about to break up with Nuke here before this even happens. What do you think?
Oh, I never thought that at all.
I think she's going to break up with him because like even like she kind of like tries to calm him down when he comes to try to have sex with her. And she says it's because of his dad, but she also says, I think we need to talk.
Yeah.
I think she's ready to go with Crash.
She's also not to demean her, but she is dressed less provocatively. She's dressed in a dress that he tells his dad that she's a Catholic girl. She dresses exactly as the dad probably would have expected her to dress, right? It doesn't catch him off guard at all. But I think it's a part of, maybe you're right. I think it's just a part of her growing up, and she's realized, because she says, right, I knew he was going to come over, but it's not the man that I wanted to come over. And I think, when you find out when they get the phone call, I think it's kind of a relief for Annie.
They get now a phone call. Everybody knows Nuke's at her house, so the call comes to Annie's house that Nuke has made it to the show. He's going to be in the major leagues, and Nuke is sweet because he's saying he'll be back to Annie, right? But Annie instead says, no, this is a goodbye. People don't ever come back once they've gone to the majors. Like, this is goodbye, and it's a sweet goodbye.
It is.
Now we get a not so sweet scene between Nuke and Crash. Crash is kind of drunk, I think, at the pool hall, and Nuke comes in to tell him he made it into the show, and Crash is bitter. He's not in a good place to receive this news.
Does it seem a little out of character to anybody else? Does it seem to come out of I don't know. I guess I don't expect. I don't know what to expect his reaction to be, but it's like where did the depression set in? You know what I mean? Where did it come from?
Yeah, I don't know.
It makes me uncomfortable. I don't like it. I don't like him being angry at Nuke like that. But I can see, why he would be, bitter and jealous and then so he hits him.
Right.
And his first, so Nuke hits Crash. And the first question Crash asks is, which hand? Was it your pitching hand? Don't hurt your pitching hand.
So he's not, he's still trying to be on Nuke's side, even through his cloud of bitterness.
Even though I don't know how we got to this place, I like that the scene it gets there gradually where you realize, he's just kind of self-indulgent, like he's kicking himself, right? Because I'm a loser, whatever, and it just seems to maybe come from when he's drunk. But I like that it builds naturally to a point where, it's funny. He punches him in the face, and he's like, "You hurt my eye," right? And it's like, just help me up from the floor. It's like it's still a charming scene. It doesn't get ugly. I think it redeems itself.
And Crash apologizes in the locker room the next morning, and they do have a decent goodbye after all. And at this point, Nuke is self-aware enough about his ignorance that he actually makes a joke involving the word ignorance.
I just like seeing you riled up.
That's right. And we see now also a baseball field wedding between Millie and Jimmy. But right after the celebration, in fact, when they're in the middle of the celebration, Crash gets called into the manager's office. And we see a payoff for the earlier scene where someone was released, because we hear the same words, like, this is the hardest thing a manager has to do. And he's so vulnerable here. He's in just his towel. He's still wet from the shower, and he's getting, fired. They do put in a little thing like there might be a manager position in Visalia next season. But this is, at the same time, this has got to be dispiriting on one level, because they're no longer thinking of him as a player. They're thinking of him as like them, the guys who've been kind of put out to pasture, put into management.
Yeah. And you can see it on his face, even before the manager says anything. Like when they like close the door and he's like, okay, and he stops and he knows it's coming.
Yeah.
And he
It
just
takes him a while.
it. He just takes the whole thing. He doesn't react. Ugh. Gut wrenching.
But he has some consolation. Crash washes up on Annie's front porch, and they finally get together. And the Chekhov's garter belt pays off, because he unsnaps her garter with one-handed without even looking. I don't think I could frickin' do that, let me say. And she gives another one of her, oh my. And we have plentiful 80s romantic saxophone.
So good.
Sexy sax.
Yeah, and now we've just got we've got a sex montage basically now, or a sex and intimacy montage. They're having sex on the bed, they're rolling onto the floor, they're on the kitchen table, they're in the bathtub with candles. We see like Crash wearing a very feminine robe of Annie's, and they're dancing to 60-Minute Man by the Dominoes, which is a very sexy song to begin with. And and there's a scene where Annie's tied up. And this is where you really think something is going to go down. But we find out that he's just painting her toenails. Like the way they play that shot, though, they're just like slowly panning over her body. And you're like, oh, what's he up to over there? And it was kind of like, oh, toenails. But it puts it in your mind what else he could be doing, which is very clever, which gets around the ratings.
Is there a difference in the way the sex scenes are filmed? You see the first time with Nuke, it's very quick. It's almost like doesn't really matter. The next sex scene we see is them under, when she says Crash's name, but they're under blankets. You don't see anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then this one's a full on, like you said, it's a montage and intimacy. I like that you said that, because they're connecting, but not in a way that's just purely sexual, because now they know each other. And so they're at a place where they can actually bond. Literally, figuratively, all of that stuff. I don't like when they spill the milk on the table. As somebody who, watches the milk prices race, I'm like, ooh, pick that back up. But I also like when she's tied up and you see her squirming. She's squirming in a way that you think she's up to something else. But he's doing something that's, again, very intimate. And I think she's turned on by that. And so, again, it's a different kind of sex scene than what we've gotten in the rest of. And in a lot of movies, it's a different kind. It's like you said, it's that intimacy is really important here.
Yeah.
I really like it when they're eating in the kitchen, just she's eating ice cream and smoking a joint, and he's eating the cereal, and they're talking and laughing. Like, that's fun stuff too. And but yes, the milk drove me crazy too. I'm like, clean.
That's expensive.
Yeah, I gotta say, I've never had sex that like put food all over a kitchen before.
Right.
I've seen this in multiple movies, and it's just never been something like, I feel like you'd almost have to go out of your way to do that in a way. Like,
right. Also, did the bowl break? Because I'm like, oh, now you have to pick up all those shards. It's too much work.
He throws it in the sink and it breaks. And
I do approve of the bathtub sex, though. She has a great bathtub. I mean, lighting all those candles is very impractical, but like, I like the whole layout there. Very sexy, very nice. Yeah, and I love the song 60-Minute Man. Like, I mean, the whole song is basically about taking your time to have good sex. Mm-hmm. So it fits in. All right, now we're coming to the end of the movie. So Crash actually goes back out to play. He finds a team. I think it's Asheville, maybe? He finds a team where he can play to get his record home run. Annie talks about this in a monologue. And we see another sort of montage, which shows Crash hitting his home run, and Nuke is succeeding. But the way we know that Nuke is succeeding is we see him give one of those interviews with the cliche answers, just like Crash taught him.
It's incredible. It's incredible how long he goes.
And then I love her observation about Nuke. The world is made for people who aren't cursed with self-awareness. Is there a truer statement? I don't know.
I think that's the most famous line from the movie. That's what people always quote, it seems like. Yeah. The research that I was doing, like reading some essays and things like that, everybody really seemed to be affected by that line.
Yeah, I mean, I feel this deeply. Like, I just feel like my whole life I've had too much self-awareness, so I think it probably would have been easier without it, but I wouldn't trade it at the same time.
Right.
So, and now we have a Durham Bulls game is rained out. Annie comes home and she finds Crash on her porch. And their little conversation makes it clear that they're going to get together long term, because Crash shares his possible plans to manage in Visalia, but he's talking about it to her like he's wanted to know her opinion. It sounds like he wants to know if she'll come along for the ride. Although she'd be giving up a hell of a house, I got to say that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Exactly.
They can always let Millie have the house.
That's true. That's true.
What I really like here is, like, you know, he's basically telling her, like you said, he's like finding out if she's okay with it. He's being open with her and making plans with her. And she has a relief on her face and in her voice where she's like, yeah, I don't have to pretend to be I'm the shit, right? I don't have to pretend like I'm the biggest, smartest person in the room. I can actually be vulnerable with a person. It seems like a relief for her. And you see that in the breathiness of her voice and the way she just starts crying. It's a very, again, you don't really know if you haven't watched the rest of this movie, you don't really know what they're talking about. They're basically still talking in baseball code, right? But I just like that they're finally bonding and in a way saying, I'm done, I'm tired. Let's make something of this and stop playing around.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, she theorizes a bit about baseball, but he then says, Annie, I got a lot of time to hear your theories, and I want to hear every damn one of them. But right now I'm tired. I just want to be. And she says, I can do that too. And yeah. And then the whole movie ends, though, with her giving a quote from Walt Whitman about baseball, or what, a misquote, as we will find out in a second. But she says, Walt Whitman said, I see great things in baseball. It's our game, the American game. It will repair our losses and be a blessing to us. You could look it up. Now, I did look it up. Blessed with the internet as we are. And apparently Temple University has a special collection of different things involving Walt Whitman. According to them, it is a misquote. It is sort of an amalgamation of two Walt Whitman quotes, which are quite long, but if you'll indulge me, I will read them out here. Number 1, I like your interest in sports ball, chiefest of all baseball particularly. Baseball is our game, the American game. So there we have some commonality. I connect it with our national character. Sports take people out of doors, get them filled with oxygen, generate some of the brutal customs, so-called brutal customs, which, after all, tend to habituate people to a necessary physical stoicism. We are some ways a dyspeptic nervous set. Anything which will repair such losses may be regarded as a blessing to the race. We want to go out and howl, swear, run, jump, wrestle, even fight, if only by so doing we may improve the guts of the people. The guts, vile as guts are, divine as guts are. Does it really make a
awesome.
Does it really make a good movie ending quite as well, though, huh?
Too long. Yeah, too long.
But man, what a missed opportunity to talk about guts in such a great way.
And there's a second one. Baseball is the hurrah game of the Republic. That's beautiful. The hurrah game. Well, it's our game. That's the chief fact in connection with it. America's game. Has the snap, go, fling of the American atmosphere. Belongs as much to our institutions. Fits into them as significantly as our constitutions, laws. Is just as important in the sum total of our historic life. So that's Walt Whitman on baseball. He loved it, apparently.
Yeah.
And any other comments about the end of the movie then, too? How the movie ends?
I think it's perfect.
Yeah. I don't know. It doesn't reach any like grand statement, like I said, that it really just comes down to sometimes something you love doesn't love you back. But Yeah, I mean, Crash finds Annie, and he loves something that loves him back, and they're able to be comfortable with each other, even though they're, he's going to be a small league coach, and she's going to keep living in this town, living in this house, following him around, whatever. They're going to be together. I think you're looking for
Yeah.
these little small victories, and not every movie has to end with the grand statement. I thought about that for a long time, like, well, what was the point of that? But it's like, well, sometimes there is no point. Sometimes it's just those little small things that keep you going.
Love is the point.
Yeah.
That's why we have this podcast.
Exactly.
All right, so let's get now to our double feature recommendations. And yeah, these are just some movies we think would pair well with Bull Durham. And I'll go first. So I'm probably stealing this, probably from you, Darin, maybe from you too, Sophia, but I got here first. My first double feature is going to be Field of Dreams from
Yes.
1989,
Yep.
which is, for me, it is, yes, the better Kevin Costner baseball movie. For me, Field of Dreams is the best baseball movie, even though it is not as much about baseball as it is about like idealistic dreams and following things that don't necessarily make sense, and a beautiful movie. Like, that is, for me, it really does encapsulate how baseball is the American sport. And of course, it stars Kevin Costner and James Earl Jones, as you mentioned. And if you are somehow unfamiliar with this movie, a farmer hears a voice in his cornfield that basically tells him to build a baseball park in his cornfield. And many fascinating things come from that place. Yeah, anyone want to add any comments about that? Because I might have stole it from someone.
Yeah, totally stole it. That's okay, though. You were there first. And yeah, I would have picked it as well for all those reasons. It's
This is Field of Dreams is my favorite movie of all time. It's a movie that I settled into. Like, the summer that it came out was the summer of Batman, and as a teenager, that was all I was interested in. I did see Field of Dreams in the theater, but it didn't, because I was just thinking of Batman the whole time. And so watching it like in high school when I was sick one night, and the movie was on TV, and I just remember watching it and just settling into this magic mood, and just it changed me. And so I walked downstairs and I told my mom, I think Field of Dreams is my favorite movie. I don't think I feel different. And it's just, I could go on for hours and hours, but you're right. It's baseball is the background for dreams and ideals and things like that. But it's also, like we talked about, it's when James Earl Jones at the end, he's basically saying, the world is just, we don't have time for anything, but baseball will be the reminder, right? Baseball will be the thing that ties everybody together. And the thing that gets me, like it gets everybody else, like, I didn't, I think I told you ladies at the beginning, it's like my biological father died when I was 2. I didn't have a chance to play catch until my mom remarried. And so just that whole thing of the redemption, and more than that, it's about following faith. It's funny watching people watch the movie today and they don't understand. I've watched people think that it's a movie about demonic possession.
What?
Like, they don't understand. Yeah, literally. Some reactor watched the whole thing going, and these people are sick. These people are gross.
Goodness.
What's happening? And I'm like, do you just not understand what faith is? It's very weird watching people watch this movie. But yeah, the whole movie's about doing something you don't know why you're doing it, but you have faith that it's going to work. And what Ray Kinsella does, he keeps doing it, and he keeps building, and he keeps building like a team, so to speak, that believe in him and that follow their dreams. And so all these people are able to just achieve something because they have faith. And he's rewarded in the end with something that's been his, kind of defined him for life and wounded him. And now he's able to kind of put it to, it's just a lovely, lovely made movie, lovely idealized movie. Everything about it is perfect. Like I said, Kevin Costner is perfect in it because he's not required to do anything really deep. But yeah, it's, I've been giggling this whole time because every time you mention Field of Dreams, I'm like, I got stuff to say. So that's the very short version of it.
Yeah, and it's a fantastic movie. I've actually visited the Field of Dreams in Dyersville, Iowa.
Oh, jealous! I totally want to. It's on my list.
I mean, it's not that far. And at one point, I had a jar of dirt that I bought there. Yes, I don't know. It was so dorky. Okay. Anyway,
sorry to take up so much time there, but
no, that was beautiful. That was beautiful. I wish you had somehow gotten to that one first, actually. Now, because you articulated it much better than I could. Yeah.
Well, I was slow on the uptick, so it's fine.
So my second double feature recommendation is the one that I was talking about at the very beginning of the episode. That is a nostalgic pick. It is Major League from 1989, and this is a nostalgic pick because my family would go to like 1 or maybe 2 movies a year, And one of them was usually a baseball movie, and Major League was one of the movies we went to that year. And it was just kind of one of those movies, baseball movies, I'd always watch with my family. And it is very dated in certain ways. There are whole plot lines that I'm like, I don't know about that anymore, especially the romantic plot line. But it's still fun, actually. There's a great ensemble vibe to the whole movie. And Charlie Sheen is in it, Wesley Snipes, Tom Berenger, all in it. They're great together. And it's also one of those team of misfits movies where like they assemble a team of misfits who isn't expected to win, but they end up doing well despite themselves. Kind of like the DNA for Ted Lasso kind of happening in there a little bit. So, but it's very 80s. It's very, if you're easily offended, you probably won't be too into Major League, but it is a fun movie nevertheless, and a nostalgia pick. And then my third choice is going to be Everybody Wants Some, the Richard Linklater movie from 2016 about a college baseball team. And this is such a great hangout movie. Like the funny thing is I don't really like Dazed and Confused that much. I don't really know why, but
Wow.
yeah, I don't like it. I don't respond to it. I don't relate to any of those characters, but somehow I like this one, even though I'm not some college dude in the 70s. Maybe it's because Glenn Powell's really hot and he looks great in 70s outfits. I don't know. Maybe it's because of all the disco, but like for whatever reason, I really get into the vibe of Everybody Wants Some. It's just all the different types you might find on a sports team. There's an intellectual mystic type on the team. There's a kind of an everyman. There's some guys who are just trying to get laid, and there's people who take it a little too seriously and people who don't fit in. It's a great like hangout movie about like what constitutes a baseball team.
So if Field of Dreams is the number one baseball movie, A League of Their Own, I think comes a very close second, and that was one of my picks. That came out in 1992, directed by Penny Marshall, starring Tom Hanks and Gina Davis and Rosie O'Donnell and Madonna and Lori Petty, and it's fantastic. If you haven't seen it, it's about...
Oh, Darin's seen it. He just did an episode on it,
episode, yes. Very, very good.
I meant that for the greater audience.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
By now.
Well, what's wrong with you if you haven't seen A League of Their Own? Come on.
A little bit, yeah. A little bit. It's just fantastic. It is so feel good. It is about, the women's baseball league when all the men were off at war, and featuring these sisters who one is a very natural, she's got a natural talent, and she kind of reluctantly goes on the tour for her younger sister who really wants to be on the team, who's a good player, but just doesn't have that charisma that her sister has. So you've got this sisterly story, and you've got this washed up ball player and Tom Hanks, who's hilarious in it. The classic lines of "There's no crying in baseball." So good. Highly recommend.
Yep.
My next pick, I don't know if it's from 1988. It's called Stealing Home. Familiar to you guys? Have you ever seen it?
I've heard of it, but I haven't seen it.
Okay.
I don't know if I've seen it, but I have heard of it.
Okay. It's got Jodie Foster and Mark Harmon in it. And it starts off with this boy and this Jodie Foster character who's a little bit older than him, well, quite maybe like 5-6 years older, and they grow up together, and she is kind of his first love, and he's a ball player. He plays ball, and she's like, you're a ball player, Billy, that's what you need to do. And she's the one who encourages him to do that. And he goes off and plays ball, and then finds out that she has died under sad circumstances, so he goes back home, and there's a lot of flashback to when he was young and with his best friend and this coming of age story, and then to the present where they get, they're trying to decide what to do with her ashes or honor her ashes. And
oh my goodness.
Wants to. Yeah, it's sad. But it has this baseball element to it, and the great 80s saxophone. Same.
Okay, there you go.
Gotta do it. And it's kind of beautiful.
Yeah. I can see the poster. It's Jodie Foster kind of dreamlike, front and center, and then Mark Harmon kind of kneeling. Okay, I know what movie you're talking about.
And then I chose not a sport film at all, but
No.
Thelma and Louise, because if you want to see more Susan Sarandon being awesome,
Yep.
you need to watch this film if you haven't already. It came out in 1991, and it's starring Susan Sarandon and Gina Davis, and they're two friends who go on a girls' trip, and it turns bad, and they got to flee from the law, and
you got some early Brad Pitt in there, and you got some Harvey Keitel in there too.
Yeah, it's all awesome.
By putting Thelma and Louise in there, you have also got 2 Gina Davis movies in your double features.
Oh my God, I do, don't I?
Yeah, so you could almost do like a triple feature connecting Gina Davis and Susan Sarandon.
But then you've got Jodie Foster in Stealing Home, who stole the Oscar from Susan Sarandon that year.
Oh my God. Cosmic and just amazing.
Okay, so for my double feature, first one I have is 8 Men Out, which is interesting. Talking you, Jen, you picked Field of Dreams. So I'm like, well, I'm going to pick another Shoeless Joe type. Anyway,
nice.
So the whole thing with Shoeless Joe and Field of Dreams, where they talk about the White Sox and everything. That's what this movie's about. It's from 1988, and it's from another idiosyncratic writer director, John Sayles.
Yeah,
I always loved his
one
work.
of my favorite. He is one of my favorite directors. So
just lovely. But then you've got a cast like John Cusack and Christopher Lloyd and Charlie Sheen, again from Major League, David Strathair and Davey Sweeney, Michael Rooker. It's just, and Bill Irwin's in there, and again, it's just kind of this interesting look at how the White Sox, how it builds, how everybody built like a reputation, and how their lives kind of pushed them in this direction. It kind of famously they threw their games, even though some of the players didn't want to go along with it, and ended up being kind of thrown in with the rest of the group, even though they didn't take part in it. And it's also interesting that Shoeless Joe is not played the same way that Ray Liotta would play him in Field of Dreams. He's kind of played as this doofus who maybe doesn't even know how to read. That's kind of, guilted into joining this group without even knowing what's going on. It's just, it's a very nostalgic, and it's, it has you get to see how they play and the love of the game and what they give up, all that stuff. So again, I watched it again today because I had time. I was like, this is great.
Oh, cool.
It went by very fast. The second movie I have is Tin Cup, another Ron Shelton movie. And again, it's one of my favorite Kevin Costner performances, because after Waterworld, how it just kind of, and Wyatt Earp, they kind of dragged, you watch Kevin Costner in these things and you're kind of like, oh man, what a downer of an actor. He's not really fun, I guess. But in Tin Cup, he's a lot of fun. It's great to see him really tap in to play golf this time and everything. And I love how Renee Russo gets to play kind of the Susan Sarandon part, where she gets to be sexy in a movie. There's a lot of sexy stuff that happens, a lot of good flirting. So again, it's a very fun movie, and it has a very good have you two seen it? Have you two seen Tin Cup?
Yes, I've seen Tin Cup. Yeah.
Okay.
You would like it, Sophia.
I think I know. I
it.
wanted to for this, and I'm going to. It's on
highly
my list,
recommend. But I don't want to ruin the ending for you, but the ending is very, very good, the way that it kind of spins things. And then for my third, just a guilty pleasure, I love The Replacements from 2000. Let's see, it's directed by Howard Deutsch, but it's just about
Deutsch.
this.
Nice.
Yeah, it's about this team that the NFL goes on strike, and so they have to bring in replacement players. And Keanu Reeves is the quarterback that they bring in. Gene Hackman is the coach. It's one of those. Again, it's a misfit. It's like Major League, where it's a misfit game where they don't get along, and then they finally learn about quicksand and all the things that kind of hone you in as a football player. They're able to play better, and it's just very fun. It has all the great stuff where they get to mess with the other teams and stuff like that, and finally win one in the end.
Yeah, no, I haven't seen The Replacements, but I think you sold it to me. I think I'm interested in seeing it now. I did not know it was Howard Deutsch. We love Howard Deutsch here because of Some Kind of Wonderful. So
Yep. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Seriously, Tin Cup and Replacements, if both of you, one of you hadn't seen one or the other, seriously go and you'll have a great time with it. I think they're great.
Well, I think people could have a great time with all of these double features. I think we hit it out of the park today.
Wow.
It's surprisingly few baseball puns have been wielded during this podcast, so we had to do one. But yeah, no, it was so great having you on the show today, Darin. Can you remind people where they can find your projects and where they can look for you?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter at DW Lundberg. I'm also on Blue Sky at dwlundberg.bsky.social. I'm on Facebook every now and then. I can't handle my family on there. But yeah, you can find NostalgiaCast link there. I've got link trees to NostalgiaCast, link trees to Back to Bluey. Back to Bluey is a bi-weekly show. And again, we take 7-minute cartoons and make 40-minute conversations out of them. Can't help it. It's just where it goes. And then NostalgiaCast, we delved back into our 90s favorites. And so now I think as I'm recording this, we're in the middle of 1993. We're taking 4 movies from each year of the 90s as a decade. And we're just talking about movies that we love and we've always wanted to talk about. So please come over and listen. We'd love to get some insight and some comments.
Well, there are so many, the 90s has so many great movies. So I'm sure that's going to be a fantastic series overall. Yeah, right. So that's great. Coming up in our future on Every Rom Com, we're going to be covering some more sports rom-coms. We are going to be doing One Crazy Summer and Better Off Dead, which are a pair of John Cusack movies with the same director that you will not want to miss. We're going to be doing The Cutting Edge, Bend It Like Beckham, Bring It On, all kinds of things. So keep an eye out for that. And yeah, thank you everybody for listening, and goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye.